a sudden you've taken a meal that was gluten-free and that you thought was safe, and it's contaminated.
Hello everyone. My name is Michael Wong, and I'm one of the co-hosts for the Gluten Free Organic podcast. Welcome back, fellow listeners, and hello, new listeners. Today's topic is going to be pretty interesting because it plays pretty well to our podcast name. We'll be discussing how gluten-free related food and organic food had tremendous impact into our health, and how the current industry is handling the trend. So with that in mind, we have an old friend from college. His name is Jason Siedel, and he will be sharing his story about his food journey and how it impacted his health. And as always with me, Robert Den.
Hey guys, it's Robert. I'm glad to be back. Glad to have Jason on to get us more informed on on this topic. First off, what we're going to do is we're going to say what we're drinking today, right? So today, I'm drinking Blue Bottle coffee. No alcohol today.
No alcohol today. Wow, I'm surprised. It's only 2 o'clock, you know? That's a big time zone, though. What you got there, Jason?
For me, I'm just drinking water. Just my reusable container.
The necessity, right? So
it is.
I'm actually drinking mate today, so not using coffee. I try to switch it up a little bit because I've been drinking too much coffee lately. So trying to at least find a happy medium behind that. Yeah,
very nice.
It's always good to have a medium. Jason, tell us a little about yourself and what you've been getting into.
Yeah, so when I guess I could start with the title of your podcast, right? Gluten Free. So the first time I saw it, I was really excited, and I'm like, wow, these guys are going to get into the concepts of gluten free, and we're going to be able to talk about it. I'm going to hopefully learn something from them, or maybe you guys you're suffering from gluten free illness as well. So I clicked on it and I started watching the first episode. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not gluten free.
That's not what we're about.
But to Michael's point is that it really creates an intriguing concept for the listener to kind of click on it and want to learn more. So that's kind of how I got here. But for me, I've been in the marketing business, marketing and sales for the last 15 years in the beverage alcohol business. Before that, I started out as a chef, and I never had any food restrictions or dietary restrictions kind of growing up, but I never really felt well. Like there was always something going on. A couple of years ago, I got a diagnosis of celiac, and I had a diagnosis of some other gastrointestinal issues that kind of go along with that. So had to change my diet, had to change my life. The people around me had to change. And you really kind of had to start doing research because it really impacts everything that you do day to day. So it's kind of where I've come and where I've landed so far.
So can you give us an example? What are the food triggers that impacts that? Just wondering.
I think you went on mute, Mike.
Oh, yeah, go on mute.
I lost you.
Wait, do you not hear him?
I got no volume from either of you guys.
Oh.
Can you hear me okay?
We hear you. We hear you fine.
There we go. It's back. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we hear you.
No, I was just asking, can you give us some of your, some of the food impacts that impacts that disease? Just wondering, just for the listeners who are now aware of this, give a little bit more background.
Yeah. So gluten, right? Gluten is a binder, and it can be found in wheat, primarily wheat, and it's in a lot of products that you eat. So it's in bread, it's in pasta, it's in
beer.
Beer. Oh man, beer is one of the worst, right? It's one of the best, but one of the worst. I haven't had a beer in 8 years. A regular beer, something. Not saying that gluten-free beer is bad, but it's not real beer. Even things like vodka. Vodka is made from wheat, made from barley, made from rye. All of those ingredients have gluten in them, so you can't do it. Now there's different sensitivity levels to different people with their diagnosis. Some people just have an allergic reaction, and so they can kind of maintain that day-to-day balance of having gluten or not having gluten. But for me, along with some of the other folks, I can't handle anything at a very, very minimum level. So I stay away completely.
So does it impact your autoimmune system? How does it impact
it
your
does,
digestive
yes.
system?
Yeah, so it's the small intestine that actually, for me in particular, inflames. So you've got different reactions. You've got an internal reaction and you've got an external reaction. There's some folks that have rashes, and you can see it almost immediately after they've ingested gluten. And then that's kind of the external and the internal, where you almost never know someone's experiencing it unless they're telling you. But the small intestine will inflame. And then you're kind of left with some unsatisfying side effects, gas, bloating, some more things you don't want to go into detail about. But it's not a fun thing, and everyone experiences it at different levels of severity. So for me, it's like I'm out 3 days. If I have gluten, like you get this brain fog that kind of comes over you, and I'm out. I can't function 3 days.
Wow.
Is this like mostly genetic? Is it developed over time? Like, I'm just wondering, like, how does it impact sometimes? Or is it
I have no idea. I mean, you watch those investigative movies about things that have happened over time, like the what was it, the paint guys? Is it PPE, or what was those guys that they were spilling stuff into the water from Teflon? I can't think.
Oh, this is way back. I know.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I had to look that up again.
Yeah, but I mean, it's things like that where like our bodies are not meant for what's in our food.
That's true. I agree.
And over time, I think generations and generations of consuming these different types of chemicals and things, our bodies have just given up. They're reacting. Yeah, they just can't fight it anymore.
So you were saying like when you were younger, you didn't have as bad of a allergy, and you've developed it more. It's developed more since then.
Yeah, so celiac is usually pretty dominant in discovery in like your mid 20s to 30s for male and females, and I had some of the symptoms, but everybody chalked it up. IBS was the coined term for that particular generation, our generation, when you were just not feeling well. And I mean, I can't even count the number of days that I missed school from like kindergarten to 6th grade. I think was probably when I was at its worst. Every morning my mom would get up, she would do the mom thing, make me a waffle, make me a bagel, all the things that were making me sick, but nobody knew. So you live and you learn.
Well, the things that also, like you said, mentioned, right, the impact of the water that you drink, because, especially like at different areas. Like I think in our last episode, we talked about the basic necessities of just having clean water. And right now, this, because due to contamination or whatever is going on, like our body's not meant to digest right now, especially like the plastic situation, right? Fishes eat those little plastic thing, it impacts the water source system. Eventually it goes to our body, So like it may not react today, but over time it kind of builds that in a sense. It is kind of worrisome, especially for a future generation.
It is. It really is.
And one
Dupont.
Of the things,
yep,
Dupont.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's I remember about that. I heard
and it was when if you watch that movie and you go through all of the side effects that those folks were going through and that they were having, and then if you at the very, very end of the movie, it talks about the number of cases of people that are still experiencing those things in multiple generations. Those are the types of things that it makes me feel like that could be one of the reasons why,
So any of your member family has this disease as well or no?
What's interesting is that my mom has always had some kind of similar symptoms, but she kind of just ignored it and kind of just lived her life around it, which a lot of people do. And it wasn't until I got my diagnosis that I started making her pay more attention to it. And she still refuses to go get her official test, but she definitely feels better when she doesn't eat gluten, and then when she does, she has reactions. So it's just one of those things. But there's definitely a genetic carryover that.
Well, also as we get older, our bodies does change. It's supposedly every 7 years our body changes and some of that, and it keeps changing. So for me, I remember I used to be allergic to dairy. Between the age of 7 and 14, I couldn't eat dairy. But before the age of 7, I was drinking chocolate milk almost every day. And then every time I touched dairy between age 7 and 14, I just couldn't hold it. Like, let me tell you, my body could not hold it.
Just rejected it.
Yeah, it was just rejecting it. And then somewhere happened in my, I guess, sophomore year, junior year of high school, somebody did a prank and gave me chocolate milk in my my protein shake thing, and nothing happened though.
And you're fine?
Yeah, I was fine. The prank backfired on them. So I was like, okay. So I went to eat ice cream the same exact day. I was like, yes, I missed ice cream. I could not eat dairy.
That
for
is so weird. Yeah.
It was really weird. I mean, keep in mind, your diet changes, your body changes as you get older. So random stuff does happen, and I wish there was an exact path, hey, what causes this and that. And I think that's still ongoing investigation for a lot of folks, though.
Yeah. Well, and when we're in college, we're garbage disposal, so we could eat
dude, we ate so
anything.
much
stuff. It was between the tailgates and the barbecues and the different times of day, and the late nights. Sure
and then like the late night Denny's runs and like
the late night 5-star.
5-star pizza.
5-star.
Just all the bad stuff we eat at like 2 a.m.
Oh my god, it adds up though.
Plus all the alcohol consumption too.
Even forget the food though. Just the stress and anxiety and sleep deprivation and long hours and things that you put your body through too. Then you add in all of the other things that we're doing on top of that. Yeah, it's a surprise we're standing.
We felt invisible.
Yeah.
So overall, now that you obviously got diagnosed, you found a little bit more information about it. So I'm guessing you've returned to your passion now. You're cooking a lot more now. You're actually trying to help that spread that awareness.
Yeah.
So can you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah. So the hardest thing for somebody that has a celiac diagnosis, or even somebody that just has a regular gluten allergy, is eating out. That's the most difficult thing, because if you have an allergy, you can maintain an awareness of the allergy. Even if it's just your dairy, hey, I stay away from dairy. Yeah. But when you go out, there's cooks and chefs and folks that are in the service industry that don't understand what this dietary restriction is. They think it's a food fad, or they don't understand it cross-contamination. So slowly but surely, I strayed away from actually dining out. It wasn't working for me because the cross-contamination was too high. So I kind of reached back into my culinary background and said, you know what, this is it. We're going to limit the amount that we eat out to as very, very little possible, maybe once a week, maybe once a month sometimes. And I'm going to cook everything. I'm going to read labels. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to inspect everything that goes into my body, as best as I can, to limit the exposure of anything that contains gluten. And that, for me, has helped a lot. But as you live your daily life, it's very, very difficult, especially when you want to, prior to social distancing, when you want to socially engage, it's tough. Going out with a group of friends, and if you're at a restaurant, you don't want to be singled out. You don't want to go somewhere where everyone else is not going to eat. So now you're with 6 guys, couples, whatever it is, and you don't eat. You sit at the table, you don't eat.
Damn. And trust me, this happens with vegan friends as well.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. It happens to a lot of people. So how do you handle that? I'm just wondering, that scenario, how would you handle that?
It's very difficult, right? Sometimes you can poke fun out of it, and you can just, kind of have a good time about it and say, hey, I'm going to drink my dinner, and you have a couple cocktails and away you go. But
liquid diet, right?
Liquid diet, yeah. Or sometimes you kind of power through it and find the safest thing that you can, which would usually be like a salad, or sometimes a soup, things like that.
Even dressing, sometimes you never know though, right?
Yeah. What's the word? Caesar dressing. Caesar dressing that is sold in bulk actually has wheat as some of the.
I thought it has some kind of breadcrumbs in it, doesn't it? Because it has absorbed.
A regular Caesar salad does, but you've got to say no breadcrumbs. But okay, let's think about it from a chef, a back of the house perspective, right? So say you order a salad. A lot of times the way that these restaurants are set up is they've got multiple bowls in the back, and each bowl is assigned to the salad dressing, so there's no crossing of salad dressing. So they take your lettuce, which is gluten-free, they put it in a bowl that has already had croutons in it, and they mix your dressing. So your salad is gluten-free.
Cross-contamination there.
Cross-contamination.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you've taken a meal that was gluten-free and that you thought was safe, and it's contaminated. And if you don't have somebody in the back of the house that has the experience and know how to deal with that, you're at a higher risk.
Yeah, usually a higher end restaurant tend to do a better job, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But in a smaller restaurant, because obviously lack of space, you want to be more efficient, things like that. They don't think about that kind of thing, or they might not even have that kind of awareness that that's impacting that situation.
That's very true. You know, one of the places that I've always gone to has been steakhouses, right? Because a steakhouse is probably one of the safest places that somebody with gluten allergy can eat.
Really?
Yeah, because everything is either done on a broiler or it's done on a grill, and there's nothing else that's typically on that same surface. So, you know, if you get a baked potato, you're usually good. If you get a steak, you're usually good. Mm-hmm. Seafood, sometimes you're pretty good. So, you know, unfortunately, I get to eat at steakhouses a lot.
Unfortunately. So hang on. Can you tell us a crazy experience that you encountered at a steakhouse that you didn't think that, like, maybe tells you a crazy experience? I'm just wondering, like, that impact, like that.
Well, I got really sick. I mean, it's not crazy good, but I went to a steakhouse. I hadn't moved to Texas yet, and I was here on work, and I had just finished a meeting, and I was with my boss and a distributor partner, and we went to a steakhouse for lunch. And this place was famous for their prime rib, and I didn't really know how severe my allergy was. So we go in, and it's all you can eat prime rib for lunch, and you just go to the thing and like and they slice it for you right there. The place is delicious. And
it was a Golden Corral, right?
No, it wasn't. It was called I think it was called Lowry's Steakhouse here in Texas. Okay. And so the guy cuts the prime rib with a serrated blade, and then he makes a sandwich for my boss, cuts the bread with the serrated knife. Same cutting board, same knife, comes back and cuts my prime rib. And I didn't think twice about it, because I'm like, hey, I'm just getting, within 15 minutes, I was sick to my stomach. And I'm
in front of your boss.
In front of my boss, in front of a distributor partner. And, you know, it was just one of those things where they had to leave. I was there, you know, immobilized for a little while. And I had to get back to my hotel. Then I had to figure a way to get on a plane. I had to get back home.
So you can't just get an EpiPen and just get rid of that?
No, there's no way. You have to let the gluten pass through your body.
It just has to go through your system? Through
your system. And you
maybe take a laxase and just get it out or something, or put anything like that wouldn't help you speed up the process?
No, there's nothing, because think about, okay, so you're using a hammer, you smash your thumb, your finger is inflamed and swollen. There's nothing that you can do to reduce the inflammation. You can help it, but until that actually goes back to normal, you're always going to have an inflamed finger. It's the same thing with your intestine. So when the gluten starts attacking the small intestine, it becomes inflamed. Some of them even have, you start to get holes, and it tears a lining in your intestine. So you could get food particles that pass through. You start getting indigestion. Some people get acid reflux, secondary things that come from it. But until the inflammation leaves, you're in that perpetual state. So it's tough.
That's tough. I mean, if you tell my mom that's not possible, my mom will find a way to do that with her. Tell her now. She'll get that out of your system.
That would be perfect. Figure it out. Let me know, please. Yeah.
No, but I mean, obviously people, think about this as a fad, gluten-free, things like that. People don't understand like how, severe this is, because like you said, there's different spectrums of severity. And it's not a fad, and it only became, to be honest, a little bit more popular because of how they were labeling it,
Yeah.
I think there was a little bit of fad-ish where it came to dieting and came to like, oh, I'm going to lose weight because I'm on this gluten-free diet, right?
It started with paleo. Paleo was the one
that's right.
That really brought it up. And I mean, I went on the paleo diet when I was in school. I think my senior year, Patrick and I were lifting like crazy at the gym. And I went on paleo just thinking that this was what was going to give me the most protein, because I was trying to build. And I felt great. I mean, I felt really, really good, not knowing that I was actually eating the diet that I'm supposed to be eating.
You're eating how your body wants to be eating. No processed food. Keep that in mind.
Right.
Yeah, and then obviously, in terms of minimal white carb, and that impacts probably, your whole situation of gluten.
Yeah.
And plus, you're probably not drinking then if you eat paleo.
Right. No, I
Really?
wasn't drinking. No,
Wow.
we were pretty disciplined, man. We were
Wow.
pretty disciplined. I think we were at
Senior
the gym.
year too.
Senior year, yeah. Well, it was his junior year, my senior year.
Yeah.
Yeah, twice. I think sometimes almost twice a day at the gym. 5 days a week. We were pretty rigorous.
No, that's awesome though. So now fast forward to the track today. So now you're back to cooking now. So what makes you in terms of okay, so how do you kind of find your current demographic in a sense, the people that you're trying to look for, at least to kind of, obviously you have one, we want to know, what you specialize in, right? If you have specialized. And two, it's like the type of, I guess, food that you're trying to, I guess, cater towards to, or the type of people you're trying to cater towards to.
Yeah, so about a month and a half into when COVID hit, there was a lot of restaurants that were closing. I think there was a lot of people that sometimes would eat out just to make things easier on themselves, but I don't know how that would be able to affect them, right? Because maybe they don't have experience in the kitchen, or maybe they just don't understand the different versatility of gluten-free food. So what I tried to do, and so far it's been mildly successful, is I tried to leverage my culinary background to help the local community in my area, about a 15-mile, 20-mile radius, to give them gluten-free home-cooked meals. So, whatever it is, if it started with guilty pleasures. There's a lot of people that haven't had fried chicken in years. I mean, they don't even know what fried chicken tastes like. There's people that haven't had a decent chicken parmesan or a lasagna, or
Sounds so good.
I mean, just things like that. So what I've been trying to do is leverage that culinary background coupled with the experience that I have with celiac disease and the 100% gluten-free kitchen that I keep, and deliver these meals to people in the community that maybe have kids that have similar experiences, or just families that are just looking for good home cooked meals. So as more of these restaurants continue to close and there was less options, I was trying.
It's only fast food. Keep that in mind. Listen, let me tell you, KFC does not make gluten-free fried chicken. So.
No, they do not. No, they do not. No, and getting back to the cross-contamination thing, it's always a factor, because everybody loves to throw gluten-free on their label, or they love to say, hey, our food is gluten-free, but they don't understand the importance of a well-kept kitchen, that gluten-free. One of the most dangerous places for gluten, two places. One is the fryer, and the other one is a cutting board. So
that's true. Yeah.
I mean,
cutting board.
Cutting board, yeah. If you think about like McDonald's French fries, right? You're like, oh, well, potatoes are gluten-free, and I can just eat French fries, but I can't eat anything else. No, because they're frying chicken nuggets, they're frying chicken sandwiches, fish sandwiches. So all of that
That's
breading lives inside of the fryer. And from a scientific perspective, I don't know where gluten dies, but it's well over 400 degrees. And so that gluten basically becomes this pool of infestation waiting to attack whatever you're going to cook. So it's been tough.
And I mean, people don't realize that one dish could be gluten-free and the other dish can, is not, right? And how do you, how do you trust that, right? With that factor. So actually, I actually admire a restaurant who just goes completely gluten-free, everything. So like this restaurant that I sent you guys the link, Fresh Kitchen, this is in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my buddy found this place, after working at the gym, we're hungry. And this restaurant does a really good job. Everything's gluten-free. And one of my buddies that he's kind of gluten, I guess, it impacts his digestive system, It doesn't get him sick, but he can feel it, right? Mm-hmm. So he says that ever since he discovered this restaurant, they kept it pretty clean because everything's gluten-free, not just one dish.
Yeah, I love it. But you know what throws me off about these type of places is that I love the simplicity. I love the dedication and the options. But when you look at this, to the mom and dad of two kids, or to somebody that's kind of rushing or wants some variety, this just looks like health food. And I think it may throw people for a loop when they say gluten-free diet, because they feel like, hey, all I'm eating is rice bowls and salad bowls. And
But
for
let me tell you that
me,
that's not it though. See, that place, it's a whole different option. They have this almond fried chicken. Fried chickens are really amazing. They have this teriyaki steak thing. They have the salmon. Like, so the variety, I agree with you, because at the end of the day, they think that, oh, to be gluten free, you have to eat super healthy,
right,
salad. But it's not like that though.
this
What
looks great.
Yeah, what I like actually about that place is actually has the kind of variety where especially the sauces for those bowls. I mean, that set also got that ginger wasabi creamy sauce there. Like they get creative with those ingredients, which to me, surprisingly, for a fast food place, has done a great job at that.
Yeah,
And not many, like you said, you're right. Not many places have done that, but I think that if you, I think this is catering towards that. It's moving towards that trend, obviously.
yeah,
And as we can see more and more now, we're seeing more healthier trend. But listen, it can still be amazing, delicious, and it still can be healthy.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's all about the ingredients that you put in. It's all
yeah,
about, how you treat the food, and also catering to people's diets, I think is super important.
yeah,
One of the things that I've been trying to do as best that I can is helping the, dine local. So I've been buying Texas grown onions, tomatoes, squash, any type of vegetables that I can get, that have been Texas grown or as local as possible is what I try to buy. Even the beef here, I mean, the meat in Texas obviously is incredible. So it's the same thing. I'd say 80% of the food that goes out of my kitchen is from Texas somewhere.
It's locally sourced.
Yeah,
Locally sourced. That's good.
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And the thing is that so a lot of it had to do with cost. People think that could be really expensive, and to be honest, though, guess what? If this is pretty mass popular, let me tell you, prices will drop down, and because
I hope so.
you know, but it kind of it does impact a little bit. I just think that eating healthy shouldn't be a cost thing, right? Everyone should have the opportunity to eat healthy.
They should, and that's it's funny that you bring up cost, because it's one of the hardest things from a gluten-free household is when you start looking at the cost of gluten-free items. A loaf of gluten-free bread is about $6, and it's about
Wow.
half the size of a normal loaf of bread. I used to buy Italian bread for $1.29, and you get
Yeah.
this massive loaf. You could make 20 sandwiches. Now, I buy a bread that's typically frozen, and it's $6, and you can make 4 or 5 sandwiches and you're done, or whatever you're using with it. Everything gluten free is more expensive because I don't know why. I
Is
want
the
an answer
production
for it.
is the production of it more difficult than
Well, the supply chain is
normal?
probably minimal to impact to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be,
It's
because
low volume.
it could be low volume. It could be just a marketing
That's true.
thing. I mean, it
Yeah.
could be just marketing higher margins on these products because of supply chain.
Hmm.
It's mind-boggling that when you go to the grocery store and you walk out with 4 or 5 things and you spend $60, it's very frustrating, because now not only has your body changed, but now your monetary situation has changed. So you have to budget differently. These are all things that
Or
people don't
you
consider.
restrict to minimum certain food categories, which sucks because,
Yeah.
especially for folks who cannot afford that, you're literally stuck to 4 or 5 food items.
Yeah, you really are. Well, and that's where hopefully I'm able to come in, and, I was doing some Facebook videos for a while on gluten-free dishes, and just kind of giving some videos and how-to tips on making things that are a little bit outside of the box, things like jalapeno
Affordable.
poppers,
Yeah.
affordable, that you don't have to worry about any cross-contamination, and it's more of exploratory, having fun with the things
Yep.
that you're able to eat, and don't think that gluten is going to impact your diet or your daily lifestyle. So just trying to give people a confidence. I think the one thing that COVID has done, especially across food in general, is give people the confidence to start cooking more,
That's
whatever
true.
it is.
Baking. Everyone's baking bread. Everyone's baking everything.
That's true.
Yeah. I tried to buy yeast the other day, and
It's
it
hard.
was sold out everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean,
Go to the Asian market. Let me tell you, everything's stocking. Go to the Asian market. Everything's in stock. Okay. That's why I've been shopping. I've been shopping at all the Asian markets. I haven't had to deal with lines. I haven't dealt with running out of flours or yeast at all.
We have a lot of Indian Asian markets up in Texas, and they're oh man, they're good. You can find anything that you want.
Yeah, you find vegetables is 10 times cheaper than the regular grocery store, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because the markups are small. They're mom and pop run. They're given back.
Yeah.
Everything is fresh.
Well, they have constant turnover, right? That's the whole point of those markets for them. As long as they move volume, they can keep the price low, right? And so as they keep ordering, and guess what? There's more people coming in, and it's just a cycle. That's all it comes down to. I think that in terms of like, listen, I'm a fan of those market because at least they're straightforward shooting. You know what you find. At least the cost is relatively cheap enough where, okay, you don't feel like, okay, well, they're not trying to jip you out for, whatever, onion, whatever it is, things like that. But I think, but also part of it is that, if let's say that, for example, Publix, right? Publix ran out of everything in the first week of the pandemic. I literally went to the Asian market, everything was there. And not only that, once they ran out of stock, everything got replenished. Just because everybody knows that, okay, they already have a set of, I guess, volume. They know what to expect. And so from that perspective, and a lot of people also at the same time, a lot of people are also kind of afraid to shop as well, and especially in unknown stores, right?
Yeah,
so
they're intimidated. It goes back to the cuisine as well, where people are very intimidated to try new things and they get fearful. But if you can break outside of that comfort zone just for the first time, and you go there and you try something, then you come back and you're like, now your eyes have been opened to a new experience.
I mean, Rob,
it's also the so like the Vietnamese places in like Orlando, they're like only in Vietnamese. So like if you can't speak Vietnamese, it's hard to go in there and be like, where do I find whatever, right?
But I feel like a lot of Hispanic stores and Asian stores has done a pretty good job, especially during the COVID situation. They've done a pretty good job of doing the social distancing really well, labeling. Actually,
I think they probably do better at the social distancing stuff too. They're just
true.
Like
they
as soon as it happened, they're like, all right, we're shutting everything down to like exactly what, like just like everybody be far apart.
Actually, Jason, funny thing is that before everyone was enforcing the mask situation, the Asian market store, if you didn't have a mask, they won't let you in. And Publix wasn't doing that yet. And so you're right, Robert. To your point, they were doing it much better on
They're
point.
Very quick. They're very quick to like see something that could possibly be a problem and just shut it down.
Yeah, if you don't have a mask, for 50 cents, you buy a mask.
Yeah.
And you walk in.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, the Indian markets here, you don't have to worry about the social distancing because they don't bother you. They just let you shop. They sit at the register, you check out, and that's it. Especially if you're not Indian, then they especially ignore you. But I'm like, how do you pronounce this? I can't help you. Sorry. Okay, I'll figure it out.
But I mean, you're right though. I think the whole quarantine has forced everybody to kind of, okay, you know what? We can't eat out as much. A lot of restaurants are closed, so let's cook. I think Robert, you learned how to cook during the quarantine.
I mean, I've been doing HelloFresh every once in a while, or a couple times a week. And so that's been.
And Robert never cooked before,
No, and I think it's great, man. I think if there's a set of skills that our generation didn't get. And I think cooking is one of them, along with mechanics. But, I think the one thing we can take away from COVID is people's ability to fend for themselves. And I think that's really great. Being able to take care of yourself and those around you or those with you, it's great. And, I love seeing the people that plate, like everybody, somebody cooks a steak and an onion, throws it on a plate and takes 10 pictures and posts it on Facebook. I love seeing it.
That's what I do. Like, I don't care. I don't care what the food tastes like. All I'm doing, I'm like cooking the food up and everything comes down to that plate so I can put it on Instagram.
Yeah, and Robert eats it cold. Robert eats it full cold, right?
I eat all my cooked food cold. Like it's all cold at the end. I gotta clean everything. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me to like leave the kitchen dirty. So everything's like cleaned up first, and I get back and I'm like, it's cold now.
And that's when you're working in a restaurant, you're in the back of the line. You've got so many people that you're working in sync, and you're able to deliver hot food all at the same time. Hits a plate and it goes out. When you're at home and you're cooking and you're like, okay,
you're the prep. You're the everything.
So one of the videos that I had done, I think one of the first or second videos was all about just prep work, and it was just about spend a few dollars, invest in a couple cheap bowls, whatever you're going to do, plates, even paper towels, cut all of your stuff up and then have it ready to go. And then it's, as soon as you're done, everything is there. Your food is hot. Sit down, enjoy your meal, and then go back and clean.
Cooking is 90% prepping, man.
It really
That's
is.
what I found. Doing the HelloFresh, I found that. I was like, I'm also streaming it on Instagram Live. So
Yeah.
I've been like, at first I was like, the first episode, I was like chopping everything up. And I was like, this is taking forever just to get everything prepped. So now I like prep everything first, and then the whole like video can be about cooking. And
Yeah,
then,
well, your video's less than an hour now, so which is nice.
I know. I was going over an hour for like a 15-minute meal before.
It takes a while, and then the cutting or the chopping or the peeling. So like if you don't know how, or you don't have the experience, or you haven't worked with a particular item before, even just an onion. I did a video on how to cut an onion. And it's people laugh at it, it's silly, but like
that little detail matters.
That little detail, it knocks 15 minutes off of your prep time, or it changes the way that the meal tastes. So there's little things that you can research now, or you could watch and learn from it.
Right now, I actually appreciate all the stuff that I learned from my parents, because I used to cut 1,000 onions a week from my parents' restaurant. And let me tell you, I can cut onions really fast. But just like you said, all the little details that you think that you learn when you're younger, your parents try to teach you, I feel like I'm appreciative more now about it now, just because it reduces my time prep work. Watching Robert, I'm like, wow, damn. I'm like, damn, Robert.
It takes forever to do everything.
Well, and even the funny thing is, I think back to a lot of my grandmother's recipes, when I was growing up and when she was cooking, and I'm like, okay, I know the core, I know the basics, but how can I make this faster? How can I improve this?
Efficient.
How can I become more efficient?
Right now for us, it's like we want that instant gratification. That's why. And so we want to be more efficient. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think that the one thing about the kitchen is that I'm able to slow down the instant gratification, because the whole process of cooking is the gratification. Mm-hmm. So where I normally seek that in everything else that I do, it's the one area where I can slow down. And even if it takes me an hour to do something, the whole process is just enjoyable.
It's a journey, man.
That's the opposite for me. I don't
you want to get in, get out.
I want to get it done. I want the food. Like that ending is like what is everything. Yeah. Just like the being in the kitchen chopping stuff up. I'm like, oh my god! Every time I'm doing any prep work, I'm like, oh, this is the worst part about cooking, is this prep. And then like cooking through it, like I can get stuff, I can run through the steps and get it done. But I'm like, all right, now I gotta wait for 8 minutes. Okay.
Patience, man. It builds patience, though, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's all about that multitasking. But I've integrated, the way that we set up our kitchen is that it's I think more and more people are doing this, becomes a part of the home. So it's just an offshoot of the living room. So, you live, you work, you play in the kitchen, and everything else becomes a part of it. So from the mornings when I wake up, I go right to the kitchen, and then I'm there eating, and then I'm there working at the desk, or, I'm there cleaning up, or you're unloading groceries. So like I'm always
you're constantly doing something.
I'm constantly in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And to pass into any other room, you've got to walk to the kitchen. So it's like,
it's the same thing for me. So the night before, I know what I'm going to eat the next day or two. So I start thawing that stuff. I start, at least taking out the veggies. Or at least I prep it before the night. I go to bed, just having cut for the next day. Yeah. Listen, I know I want to make a veggie omelet the next day. I already have the veggies cut before, the night before. Because I know my breakfast time is very short because I work East Coast hours. So I only have 30 minutes to do this. So I'm going to make my omelet in less than 10 minutes and take 20 minutes to eat it.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And so, like you said, the prep work matters, though. It really does.
It really does.
Yeah. And I try to find shortcut ways to make stuff. Like, for example, if I want to make, pancake stuff that I had to pre-mix before the night before, have it ready to go. Just all I got to do is just put it in the pan, add some fruits to it, and ready, But eventually, as you get used to it, as you do it more often, you start realizing, okay, you become more efficient doing this. Like, for example, I just went through like a cookie bench fee where I bake any kind of cookies. And I started I got this recipe from this Instagram handle called Bigger Bold Baking, which she actually focused on efficient baking. And so I took her chocolate chip cookie recipe and then just took that and tried to figure out how to make it different flavor, different style. Like for example, I end up making like a coconut almond style flavor with peanut butter. End up making it with orange zest, chocolate chip cookie. I end up making it with blueberry, chocolate chip cookie. So like just for me, that journey I think is worth exploring.
Yeah.
But the base foundation of that cookie though, is just so efficient that the way she's done it. It's just such a amazing thing. Like I used to buy cookie dough all the time, but now I'm like, dude, I can bake, crank this up in less than 10 minutes now.
One of the things that I love the most, specifically in Indian cuisine, is naan, and I haven't had naan in so long.
I love garlic naan. Oh,
yes.
Garlic naan's so good.
Well, I found a recipe, and I've almost got it perfected. Little tweaks to it to where I can make gluten-free naan. It's 3 ingredients. It's gluten-free flour. 3 ingredients: gluten-free flour, Greek yogurt. I use a dairy-free, and salt, and that is literally it. And you mix those together, and I make gluten-free naan, once a week now. Just
because that toasting though, man, it's all about the toasting though.
It's amazing. It comes out perfect. Little oil in the pan, leave it on both sides 4 or 5 minutes, and then you'll see it starts to pop, starts to rise. Ooh. I need to get a tandoori, and then I'll be able to cook it properly.
There we go.
Inside and fire it off, but it's delicious.
Have you done it with garlic yet?
Yeah, I've done a garlic. My favorite type of naan is peshwari. It's the one that's got the raisins and the nuts.
Oh, nice. It's a little bit sweet and salty.
It's a little bit sweet and salty. It's got that perfect sweet savory balance. Oh man, that thing with some good basmati.
Try to do it scallion style. With scallions?
With scallions, yeah.
Ooh,
I mix that right in the batter.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Man, you make me crave Indian food now, man.
Yeah.
So Jason, have you always like loved cooking?
Yeah, I mean, my family's Italian, and so it's always been a part of kind of my culture, my heritage, following my grandmother in the kitchen and my mom in the kitchen.
Italian though, man,
pasta. I love pasta.
So did you end up giving up pasta? I'm just wondering.
No, not at all. I mean, I did for a couple of years before gluten-free pasta got really big, and before gluten-free flour really became what it is now. Good gluten-free flour has xanthan gum in it, which it acts as that binder. Yeah, it has that same elasticity. So now you can make pretty decent gluten-free pasta, and you could buy it. I mean, it's almost easier to buy gluten-free pasta than it is to make it.
Really?
Making it is just
tedious process.
Yeah, pasta in general is very simple. You put your flour down, you make a well, you dump your eggs in it, and you start to incorporate. And really, that's it, for a good fettuccine. And then you throw it through your roller, you roll it, and you cut it. But with gluten-free flour, because it doesn't have that same elasticity, even with the xanthan gum, it falls apart, And so it's constantly breaking, and you've got to play with this right amount of xanthan gum to moisture to egg ratio. I made pasta one time. I ended up with like 6 eggs, which was more than just because trying to get the right balance. But Barilla, believe it or not, about 1.5 years ago came out with a gluten-free pasta. It's made from 100% corn, mostly corn.
Yeah.
It's delicious, and it's like $2. It's one of the cheapest gluten-free things you can find. And now we buy that, unless I've got something special where I got to make my pasta
like a special ravioli, right? And so
yeah, exactly. But thank goodness for Barilla, because it makes weeknights easier.
Well, I mean, I'm overall, like, at least that's trending, right? So the lower cost of of gluten-free food, and that's one of the things like I kind of wanted to touch base, because I feel like it's been like a quite journey for you, right? The last couple of years and stuff, just to navigate that water and eating out or giving grocery shopping. I mean, imagine the people who cannot do that in a sense from a budget standpoint. It's just it's a tough situation that they limit the food source from.
You have to change your lifestyle completely, and every piece of what your day-to-day routine has to change when you have this particular type of illness, or autoimmune disorder. And I think that gets missed over a lot. I mean, there's a lot of other things out there, and I'm very, I guess, humble and grateful for whatever it is that I have, that I don't have something else. but at the same time, everybody has to fight their own demons, right? And so,
That's true.
Adjusting, not being able to eat out, adjusting social engagements, adjusting budgetary restrictions, and then learning how to really cook and fend for yourself. I mean, those things. And what's the worst of all of that is actually fear. And so anxiety becomes the feeder.
That's another different topic because
like being scared of what you're eating.
Yeah.
Yes. So, example, right? I'm at an airport, which, Michael, you're familiar with, and you probably eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at airports, and it's on the go, man. And
the club lounges, remember, they're not gluten-free half of the time.
They're not. The Centurion Lounge is not. The Delta Lounge is not. AA is not.
No one is, to be honest.
No one really is. And so you're going through an airport, and it could be 8 o'clock in the morning, and you've got a 4-hour flight, and I'm starving, and there's nothing I can do. I've got to find a granola bar that says 100% gluten-free. I've got to find beef jerky, which I lived off of for about a year, when I was traveling on the airplane. But then you think of what's that doing to your body? Now you're putting
processed
sodium
food?
and processed food in your body, and it's just. But the fear and the anxiety of not being able to eat or having to eat and not knowing the reaction, it's tough.
Well, it's not only that, it's time consuming and it's annoying because you have to go out literally searching for that at the airport.
You do. Yeah. So you have to get to the airport a half an hour, 40 minutes plus whatever time you were already planning, find what it is that you're looking for and accept that that's all you're going to get. So, a typical day at the airport is a granola bar, a Kind bar or something like that, and beef jerky. And then, maybe something
Popcorn.
sweet. Yeah, popcorn, and that's it. And so the that's it bars, I think, where it's like a blueberry, an apple, and a banana, and it's all, that's my something sweet, my spicy, whatever it's called.
But that's not a meal though, man. That's not a meal.
No, it's not. And that's kind of unfortunately what you're stuck with. And then, then you land and I'm ravenous at that point.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't eat a good breakfast, didn't eat a lunch while I was on the plane. And now you're like, okay, now I overeat. And then you kind of get that.
It's a down spiral there.
It is. It really is.
Actually, you talked about the travel, the way eating, things like that. At least for me, I've done when I remember the first couple of years, I was, I'm getting, the consultant 15 the first year or so. I need to be careful with this. So even though it's nice that, they pay for the food, things like that. So I actually meal prep 4 meals on Sundays so that I could bring it up with me in the plane, froze it and they have microwaves in all the hotels, right?
Great.
So I tried to eat at least a lunch or dinner, at least one of my own meals, and I gorge out on the lunch or dinner with the per diem, things like that.
That's
so
smart.
I usually, because lunchtime, it was kind of busy and we don't really go out for lunch, so I usually ate my own lunch at the office and just heat it up and just eat it on the desk. And then at dinner, I went all out in a sense. Yeah. And that kind of helped a little bit for my balance. And I noticed that little change does matter, though. I mean,
it does.
Sure, did you do that? I'm just wondering, once you found that out.
I did it a couple times, but it was still very difficult. You never know what hotel you're going to stay at, so you don't know if they've got a microwave.
The consistency behind that.
Yeah, and for me, I'm never at an office. If I'm traveling, I'm in the market.
You're on go though.
Yeah, so a day for me could be seeing 7 liquor stores and going to 3 grocery stores to do resets or talking to distributor partners, and maybe I'm in their office for an hour, and then we're back out on the road again. So there's no consistency. I was on a work trip in January where we flew into Michigan, and then we had to drive to Ohio. So we were seeing stuff across the way. Well, the people that I was in the car with, they stopped at Chick-fil-A and they stopped at McDonald's, and there's, I can't. So
yeah, that's a gamble for you. Literally, you're literally, there's an 80% chance you might get sick. To be honest.
Yeah. So then now I'm on a mission to send these people out of their way to find me something that's safe, and then you've got to balance healthy and responsible at the same time, so then I'm like, okay, now all I can do that I can rely on are smoothies. So I find a Smoothie King, and that's not enough.
Liquid diet.
Liquid diet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually, so how do you handle that nowadays? I'm just wondering, like, because like you said, you don't have a consistency, right? So let's say that tomorrow you resume back on traveling. How do obviously now that obviously you have this experience, like how will you handle a little bit differently in a sense? Will you, because you don't have a place to heat up food. You can't really have time to, to even, to actually, like you said.
Yeah, how do you handle it these days?
Yeah,
it really hasn't changed, man. I mean, to be honest with you, it's exactly the same. It's just I'm a little bit wiser to the places that I know that I can eat and the things that I can eat and the times that I eat. So I'm a little bit more cognizant of those activities, but it hasn't changed. And I think that there's a lot of people that are in my position that do the same things that I'm doing day to day. Conferences, if I'm at a conference and it's being catered by the hotel, I won't eat. At that point, I'll know, okay, I know there's a catered lunch, and I will bring in food, or with the coming of age of Uber Eats and the ability of that, especially in cities like New York, where you're in big cities like Detroit, things like that.
It helps a little bit, though. That helps.
It does. I was at a bar with our CEO a couple months ago, and I felt horrible that I wasn't eating or drinking. I mean, I was the odd man out. I mean, this very important person is sitting to the right of me. I'm not drinking, I'm not eating, and I've got my coworkers and superiors that are all around me. And, we went to go do a cheers, and he kind of looked at me like, "You're not drinking?" And I'm like, "I'm not drinking." So it's one of those odd things. So I Uber Eated an acai bowl from a place that I knew was gluten-free. They brought to the restaurant. I explained the situation to the restaurant. They knew that they couldn't cater to my dietary restrictions. So I was able to eat at the table with everybody else from another restaurant's food.
At least they were understanding about that. That's pretty good, though.
They were. But I'll tell you, those situations happen pretty often, and it's awkward.
So, I mean, obviously your boss knows about it, your coworker knows about it. Obviously, we're clients, different story. They just met you, they don't know you.
Yeah, no,
so how do you? It's kind of hard to explain that in a sense.
It is. I was meeting with somebody from Chili's a couple months ago, and she said, "Have whatever you guys want. It's on the house." And I was like, I respectfully decline, and I'm so sorry. It's not that I don't want to eat the food. I'm sure it's fantastic. I said, but I'm not going to be able to from a dietary perspective. And so she gets it. She was really, really nice and understanding. And the two of the lady from Chili's and the other gentleman I was with, they sat there and they ate their lunch, and I kind of just ran the meeting back and forth. So, gotcha. It was what it is.
Yeah. So wait, so now you said that you couldn't drink. So what is your to-go drink now today? I was wondering.
So one of the other issues that I have is I can't digest alcohol properly.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, I can't, man.
Also an Asian thing.
It's an Asian thing.
Is it? Yeah. So, I get really sick if I have even just one glass, a glass of wine, a glass of beer, whatever, gluten-free beer, whatever.
Is it the fermentation perspective that impacts you, the bacteria?
No, it's the alcohol. It's
the actual alcohol.
Actual alcohol. Yeah. No matter what it is, the alcohol level, it kills me. So if I do drink, it's going to be wine. I try to drink as focused on wine as I can. Pure alcohol, it just makes
So wait, how does wine not impact you? I'm just wondering.
It does, but I can nurse one glass of wine and feel better than I would if I were to drink
liquor,
a gin and tonic.
Gotcha.
And it doesn't. You don't have the same social entanglement with a glass of wine because you can kind of really sip it and savor it. Somebody could have 2-3 drinks and you're still in the same glass of wine. Yeah. So there's also that social protection with the glass of wine as well.
Yeah,
with alcohol, isn't there like things you can take to make it better?
Yeah, but so you can take activated charcoal, which helps.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that. I was like, activated charcoal helps you absorb a lot of stuff.
It helps absorb it, but the activated charcoal is not good for somebody with digestive issues.
That's what I heard, because it dries it up.
Okay.
It dries it up. So then you bind. So,
Yeah.
then,
Mhm.
there's
Other
the funny
complications
nuance.
on.
It's
Yeah.
complication kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
They
So,
do make those what's called supposedly to help you digest your alcohol better. These pills in Japan. So
yeah.
I
Mhm.
remember it's like a root drink. I forget what it's called. It's like a little mini bottle. It's like almost looks like a 5 hour energy.
Hmm.
I remember going to Japan. So the situation with Japan is that if you go out, you stay out all night because train ends at midnight and it resumes back at 5 a.m. and taking a taxi is literally costing you arm and a leg there.
Wow.
And there's no really like an Uber there either. And so, and if you take an Uber, it's like XL thing, like so pricey, right? So I'm like, crap. So I guess I stay out all night and drink all night. So what they do is they sell the 7-Eleven store. They sell those root drinks. It's like that way you can drink more and you don't get hangover. So like it literally helps you like digest alcohol faster.
That's
It
cool.
it works. I just don't know what is in a sense. But I'm
Yeah.
like, man, imagine they had this in America. And I'm like, everybody would be, just keep drinking all night.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that I could drink more because I miss it. I mean, I'll still drink and I'll suffer the consequences, and it is what it is. But
Yeah.
I have to plan better. But especially wine. I mean,
Well, dating though, right? Dating when it comes to dating. I feel like so I'm not a big drinker anymore either. Like big drinker in a sense. I was never really a
Yeah.
big drinker, but I used
Yeah.
to drink, But even dating right now is a little bit hard because just that social aspect of that. Just like when you go, for your situation, when you go to work and you make these clients, for you that social aspect of that is there, right?
yeah.
How do you overcome that in a sense? So it's a big aspect.
It's very difficult. It really, really is, especially nowadays where social interactions are even more limited. And
Mm-hmm.
so it almost seems like having a beer with somebody is the only way that you could kind of get out and get some fresh air or whatever. Just go have a beer, have a couple cocktails, and have a
Yeah.
conversation. So, it makes it a lot more difficult. And, people are people at the end of
Yeah.
the day, so they're always going to be people. But, if you're the only person not drinking, everybody's always going to say, well, what's going on? Then
Yeah.
you're going to play 1,000 questions.
Especially going to like a bar, and then like anytime you go to a bar where like someone who's not drinking, you're like, oh come on, you're not gonna
Yeah.
drink with us. Like that
Yeah.
seems it's
No,
like
that's
the
it.
social
true.
pressure
Yeah.
there.
Social pressure. It's absolutely right. It makes it difficult. And, being in the alcohol industry even more.
That's
Yeah.
right. You work in it, so
Yeah, it's crazy. But and I always had a fear where if there was ever a company that I wanted to work for where their product was not gluten free, that I wouldn't be hired or that I would be, applied some type of social injustice against, whatever it might be, because of not being able to taste or sample or ingest their product. And I mean, that has to exist too for other people,
of course, yeah.
Um,
I mean, obviously, I don't think you're the only one that's having this issue. I'm
Right.
sure that community is there in a sense, right? And I'm glad to see that you're helping now at least spread that kind of awareness, because one of the things is that people tend to forget. Obviously, like you said, everyone has different diet restriction, and I think, to be honest, though, it might get worse just because of the food chain supply. I mean,
Right.
that was going on today, and we're seeing that more and more as a result of that, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad, but I mean, I'm glad that at least the company you work for is understanding about it. Your boss is understanding about it.
They're fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
they've been really great.
yeah. I mean, especially like you mentioned, like this kind of time, I think health is a factor now. Like no matter what, I think this is the first time I've seen everyone washing their hands so often, restaurants being so clean.
Yep.
Like I think this is probably a good ease of fear for you, perhaps. Maybe now, eating out is not as as more fearful that you think. Hey, that cross contamination might not even exist as much, perhaps. I don't know, but I think restaurants is going to change their way to look at things, especially from a sanitation standpoint.
I hope so. I mean, I think it's definitely due time. There's a lot of people out there that have allergies. I mean, it's if you look at a nut allergy, I mean,
Oh, it's huge.
some
Yeah.
people are really bad. I mean, luckily they can take an EpiPen, and so
Yes, but you guys can.
but you can't. No,
Yeah.
and so until places become better educated, and everyone in the restaurant is held accountable, you're never going to be 100% safe. It's very unfortunate. And the gluten-free rating, even if you're buying food at the grocery store, that gluten-free logo, you're only guaranteed to 20 parts per million based on the
before we get into that, I actually want to have a whole topic segment for that, because I think labeling it's for me is one of the biggest eye openers that's encountered the last 5-6 years. And but before getting into that, I do want to segue into our funny segue first. Because I think in terms of topic wise, I think that ties into organic, that we have people market organic, things like that though.
Yeah, let's get into our extra MSG segment where we have
yeah, we call it extra MSG. We are Asian, keep it,
keep it going. Keep it going. I like it. As long as it's gluten-free.
There we go.
So I have this. Let me send you this picture that I have.
All right.
This was mine. It's a so backstory on this, right, is I went over to my friend's place. This is the first time that I've met with one of my friends. She just had a baby. She was pregnant, so she was on maternity leave before COVID.
Hey Robert, we don't have access to it yet. They won't let you give us access.
Oh, you don't have access to it. Maybe I'll just copy the image and send it to you.
Yeah, just copy the image.
Yeah. So then I went over to visit her, but so we haven't seen each other for like a long time. Her kid is like a year and a half now, maybe, or maybe a year, and so we haven't seen her since before, like way before that. So we went over, visited. She told us that she didn't want to meet, so we all met outside, social distance, and had like mask on and everything. And so like her apartment complex is closed, like everything's closed. Their gym is closed, but there's like a little park outside. So we were walking by the door, and this is the door to their pool, and so they have it locked up. Here, I'll show the people. They had it locked up, the door of the pool. But look at this lock. Like, look how
it's like complex, right?
It's complex, but I could just lift that over. It's not really locked.
I know. I know. It's complex much.
This was. I saw this and I was laughing so hard. I was like, this couldn't be a worse lock for them to put on.
I don't know who thought of that.
It's a real genius. Let me tell you. Okay.
I know. I was like, so people who can't see, it's like they took I guess it's like a bike. A bike lock.
Like a bike lock.
Yeah,
and they wrapped it around the door handle, the gate handle, and then they looped it around the, I don't know what that's called.
The top of the post. Yeah.
The top of the post, but it's like loose enough where you could just lift it off, and the door would be open. Like you don't have to do anything more than that. So this is the perfect lock for this situation, I guess.
Oh my god!
It'd have been better if the sign said "keep locked" versus "keep closed."
That's true.
No, there's I cropped out there. Like I guess I didn't take a picture of the sign that said that during COVID, like the pool is closed or whatever. I just took a picture of the lock because I thought it was hilarious how they locked this.
Jesus, that's funny. All right, so mine is not like as funny as that, but it's more like kind of like it reminded me of a trip that took to Japan. And so it's a TikTok video. I'm sure some of you guys are probably familiar with this video. This is literally adults sitting on remote control carts, and literally, as for those who cannot see, so you have three guys. Can you see it? Okay.
Oh my god! Like TikTok on your on your screen, like your browser, is like the worst.
I know.
Let me see if I can log into this.
So yeah, as you go ahead, so I'll describe it. So pretty much, it's three guys remote controlling Tesla cars. Actually, like, did you know those kids cars you can actually drive?
Every Tesla you get like a kid's Tesla car, right?
Yeah,
or you have
correct.
the option to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much, so it's like, I guess their husband has three remote control ones, and then their wife is sitting in front of the Tesla, and then doing Mario Kart racing. So one of them is Luigi, the Yoshi. The other one is the mushroom guy, and the other one is I guess, what's his name? The guy with the big turtle shell.
King Koopa.
Yeah, there you go, King Koopa. That's right. And so they were racing down the street, and so this reminding me of me going to Japan, and we actually did, pretty much did go-kart racing, but dressed up in costume Mario style. It's pretty funny.
Okay,
So
let me watch this.
Yeah, so they did this whole video of Donkey Kong throwing bananas on the floor, things like that. It's really funny though.
All right, let's watch this. Let's go. Remote control baby Teslas. All right. Oh, this is in the street. And there's Donkey Kong. They're throwing stuff at each other.
Throwing bananas. That's hilarious.
That's funny. Man. That's gotta be fun though. To
Right?
do that.
Dude, I wish I was a kid again, man. I mean, let me tell you, I used to love those little car things.
It's funny.
How much is for one of those little Teslas, do you think?
I don't know. Probably I'd say $1,000 easily.
I think they're pretty cheap actually.
Really? Nah.
Yeah.
Look it up right now. I'm curious to see. I mean, the remote controller, that's pretty cool though. They are,
They're $500 for one, I think.
Really? I wonder
Yeah.
how long this battery lasts. Yo, we should
They're batteries, so they last as long as your car does.
You can plug it into the same Tesla panel.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what it is.
Dude, imagine all of us racing that, man. That'll be fun. That'll be so awesome, though.
Wait, so one of our buddies, Sammy, has a Tesla. Did he buy this little car with it?
No, probably not.
How long do you think he has to purchase one? Like how much time frame?
I'm not sure, but I mean, to be honest, I'm surprised he didn't buy one. But I guess where he stored it, right? You can't store that in downtown Miami.
He puts it in his apartment and then just drives around from his bedroom to the bathroom. It's like how I use my hoverboard. When I bought a hoverboard, I just I wake up, get on my hoverboard, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, go out. Just ride around the house.
When I was I was doing my MBA. One of the classes that I had to come up with a project for, I did something similar to like that idea, but it was a scooter, and so the scooter would fold up, and you would bring it with you to a bar, and you would put it in your trunk, and then at the end of the night, you would call somebody. They would show up at the restaurant, drive your car home, and then the scooter would allow them to get back to wherever that they were. And the process of it was yeah, I mean it made pretty good sense. But yeah, I mean, if you had
you
that
would need
little
range. You need range for that.
that little Tesla, stick it in the back of your trunk.
I know that's what it'd be for. So you could drive your little Tesla. What if you got pulled over by the police on it, and you're like,
mean, if you're on the sidewalk, right?
That's true. That's true.
That is true. Yeah.
Intoxicated while being a child.
No, I mean, like I said, that brings back childhood memory. I used to have like a little Jeep thingy, and was a little kid like that, man. But they were going slow. They were going like 5 miles an hour, But still, like when you're a kid, you don't care. It's a toy.
That's fast.
That's fast. For sure. All right, so let's like go into actually, organic food labeling and just in general health. The FDA has kind of like, transitioned into that. So, from your personal experience, what have you learned, Jason? Just wondering, like, what have you seen, what you learned, things like that.
I mean, labeling is it's really well regulated from the USDA and from the FDA in terms of gluten and in terms of organic foods. But I think that there's still some fear in those particular items, especially in the gluten-free world. I think organics are very heavily regulated, and one of the problems with organics is the cost. It's definitely a barrier to entry. If you want to be organic, or if you're a winery and you want to be organic, or if you're growing apples and you want to be organic, the levels and cost is associated with that is very tough. So it limits it. But in gluten, in particular, it needs to be either non-containing gluten ingredients, it needs to be removed gluten, 20 parts per million, or it needs to have some kind of removed process from the facility itself that actually removes the gluten by mechanical or whatever chemical needs. But it's still, people have sensitivity levels to that level of gluten. So it's just, you've got to be really careful. And I think gluten being selling point or a marketing point, more people are adding gluten-free to their label, but not considering the impact that it's going to have on the consumer. One of the toughest things to eat from a gluten-free perspective is peanuts. So like almonds, peanuts, cashews, all of those things, because most of them are produced in a facility where other items are done on the line, whatever
That's
it
true.
might be. So
like what other products?
It could be fruits, it could be candies, it could be chocolates, it could be trail mix, right? So it could be Chex Mix. So during the day they're running Chex Mix on the line, and then the next day they're running peanuts and cashews. That Chex Mix now cross-contaminated that line because they don't break it down and clean it to the level that they would need to. So everything becomes cross-contaminated. So, those things that you really got to look at, that it may say gluten-free on it, but the manufactured in a facility that contains or may contain cross-contaminants is a voluntary statement. The FDA, USDA does not regulate that particular statement itself.
I was going to get to that. So actually, they kind of strict with that only recently, the past couple of years. I just shared an article with you guys how the FDA in 2013 passed this act where this is a whole, labeling gluten-free doesn't necessarily mean gluten-free, so we're going to enforce this. And so they finally passed this and enforced, it gave a year time frame for those manufacturers to, hey, are you truly gluten-free or not, right? If not, fixed it. And if not, you cannot label it.
Right. So, when they were doing that, they took a random sample of all of the brands that had been submitted. And I think only one of like a 200 random sample came back and still contained gluten. They made them go back, update their policy or their production, and then they came back and they were gluten-free. So this was a really good thing that
pushed the standards. Yeah,
that pushes the standards. Yeah.
But before that, though, man, let me tell you, like you said, the fear, and people had reason to fear, though, because that contacting was truly impact. And because a lot of people, and again, manufacturers may have ignored it, or maybe did not have the awareness of it, but at the end of the day, they were just trying to be efficient, right? And so they didn't think about it from that aspect of that. But I think now the FDA, like I said, they pushed the whole, compliance situation more, and then they're encouraging consumers to report that into the consumer compliance coordinator, so they're pushing that a little bit more now, which is great to hear. And it's not just a marketing scheme, like you said.
Yeah, no, I think more and more they'll be able to manage this from a better responsibility perspective, but there's still a lot of brands out there that throw, especially, I will say this, coming from the alcoholic industry, there's a lot of brands that throw gluten-free on their label because it's not as heavily regulated. And so just by them distilling alcohol, they can say that it's gluten-free, and that's not the case all the time. And so it frustrates me when a lot of brands throw out the gluten-free label.
So you said you have a gluten-free beer, right?
Yes.
Obviously, like, how did they do that? I'm just wondering. Like, I mean, do you know the science behind that? Just wondering.
Yeah, so it's actually made from non-gluten containing ingredients: millet, sorghum, and buckwheat. They're all grains, I guess, a type of grain that they go through the same distillation and fermentation process.
They don't use malt at all?
There's probably some malted content in there, but there's no gluten in malt. So, there's no gluten in hops. There's only gluten in the barley. So, because when I was at a hops growing facility in Portland, I was able to actually taste some of the hops because they don't contain the gluten.
That's awesome.
But the beer is great, as far as getting the look and feel of beer. It's not perfect, but it's close, and the alcohol content's pretty high because I guess however long they need to fermentate those ingredients. They're like 7%, 8% alcohol for some gluten-free beers, which is pretty high. So
what's it called? I'm just wondering. I might want to try that.
The brand is called Greens, Greens. Okay. They're a brand out of the UK or out of Ireland. I think they're the UK.
Wow, I'm surprised. Out of the UK. Doesn't last think I expect that would be out of Portland or something like that.
No, well, also there's a brand called Groundbreaker that's in Portland, and they have an entire gluten-free brewery. Their stuff is delicious. I was there once before. Really nice people, kind of like hippie, but they're really cool.
That's all Portland, though. That's all.
Yeah, it's all Portland. No, but in Italy in particular, and in the UK, they are more predominant for celiac, and their government is more supportive of the celiac disease than they are here in the U.S. So in Italy, the government actually gives you a stipend to buy gluten-free food.
Wow.
As part of the having celiac disease. So if you go into the local pharmacy, the pharmacy will have a gluten-free section, and you can use that stipend to pay for your gluten-free food.
That's pretty dope.
I was
interesting.
In Milan last year or the year before, and find gluten-free products just about anywhere. Gluten-free pasta, a lot of gluten-free restaurants. Same thing in the UK.
That's definitely one way to reduce the cost of this type of food, like specialized food.
Well, you expand volume at that point, and it gets to send the people to buy it, and not only that, I think from a health factor down the road is that it's less, I guess, health costs as well, right? So if you
it's like preventative cost for
it is
for
So it's actually a pretty smart way. But imagine America try to do that though.
No, there's no way. I don't think they would be able to do that here. And if they did, somebody would figure out a way to take advantage of it.
The whole scheming thing, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it would not go over well. I mean, there's nothing that we can do here to benefit people that somebody's not going to take advantage of, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also the thing is that I think that's just the labeling of the gluten-free thing. I think it's just in general. Like, for example, I think organic labeling is actually a big deal as well. I mean, as I found out more and more, the way that organic labels is being applied or even being used to certain degrees. Some people like even, the FDA came out to say, hey, they don't regulate organic label. It's actually done by the Agricultural Marketing Services, which is a whole different department. And people get shocked about that, And so and people don't understand that, hey, even like when it goes, if you look into a little bit more deeper, organic versus non-GMO, right? People don't understand the difference because there's a whole concept where it's non-GMO, it's automatically organic, which is not true at all.
Not true, right?
Yeah, and that little kind of awareness, people are not aware, and just how the subject itself is a broad. Oh, organic means good, non-GMO means good, that means organic, and it's kind of like, it's for me, that's a kind of like a fallacy where people,
that's a problem because I thought if it was non-GMO, it just meant like, oh yeah, this is good, this is better for you than not.
They're non-genetically modifying the particular ingredient, like corn, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas organic is actually a process. I mean, so pesticides, make it not organic. I mean, you could use an organic pesticide or a natural pesticide killer, but it's a big difference there between the two of those things.
Yeah, and you're right, because so Robert, I share you an image, because people tend to forget, hey, if you're organic certified, you're automatically non-GMO, because by definition, organic means that you cannot use pesticide on the way your source, the way you grow food, and you cannot literally modify the genetic behind that as well. So that's just why it costs more to get that organic certification than the non-GMO verification.
Right, and the time period is a lot shorter, so it can take a couple months for a non-GMO certification through that third party, but to actually convert a field or a farm to organic, it can take years. And you're seeing a lot of that trend happen not only in food, but in wine, which obviously is the same commodity. Yep. So more and more growers are switching to organic style of growing production. So they're using a lot of fertilizers and feeds that are natural or that are organic, or they're using different types of weeds and crush bugs and things like that to put back into the soil to drive nitrates that help produce better wines, and ultimately, hopefully, that will help people feel better when they're consuming those type of things.
Well, I mean, the whole synthetics fertilizer thing is a big deal, though. People didn't understand how it impacted on the vegetable you had, right? And so now that they're trying to now that organic USDA certification got more strict about this, you cannot have this kind of synthetic synthetic fertilizer. You cannot have this kind of pesticide. You cannot have this kind of type of what's called sewage sludge using this. No growth hormones in terms of meat or anything like that at all.
Right.
Like,
So so the non-GMO is just like really good marketing. Like they've just spent a lot of money on marketing, and it's been
it's just for companies or farms that it doesn't have modified ingredients, but the other thing
right. But they put this label on, then they still like jack up the price for it. And then organic, they have all that stuff, and they jack it up even more. It's just like a certain multiplier.
To a certain degree, it's true in a sense, but I just feel like there are farms that just cannot sustain like that way, and they cannot grow that way just because the amount of volume they produce, and they got to keep up with this demand. And I think having non-GMO, at least, we didn't modify our genetics, in terms of growing, like for example, the corn, right? At least that helps them to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, it is a marketing thing.
But the thing is, like, even if you're like non-GMO, but you have all this other stuff in it, like, does it really matter that it's non-GMO?
My point exactly. And
so
think about, what about something like watermelon, or bicolored corn? I mean, watermelon, it was like one of the first things that they started genetically modifying because they don't want seeds. So, and I eat watermelon like crazy. But for me, the genetic modification to that seed is fine. I mean, like, I'll accept it, right? Because they've made my life more convenient. I don't have to spit seeds out. But then when you start looking at other things that they start genetically modifying with growth hormones, or chickens, like the consumer, how many thousands and millions of pounds of chicken that we're consuming a year, and they're having to keep up with that production.
They have to do that, like, in a sense. Yeah.
They have to do that. Yeah. Now you go from eating a bird that should really only be 3 or 4 pounds to a 7 or 8 pound bird, so that they can sell more of it, and they can chop it into more pieces and get more consumption and volume out of it. So,
well, not just that, the food that they feed the chicken, keep that in mind, right?
Right. Now that has to be organic, or that has to be non-GMO. So now you've got a genetically modified corn structure that is being fed to a chicken that is being then induced with additional hormones. And now you've got two things that are in your body. That was always one of the things that I was concerned about with gluten. But I mean, everything that I've read, I was worried, like, if an animal is eating X as their dish or their dinner, will that affect me ultimately in a digestion? And everything I've seen says no. I've tried to stick with grass-fed, but like pork and hog, like they're on like acorn diets, things like that. So the meat tends to taste a lot better. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's better for you.
Your steak, though, now, especially like, there was a huge trend back in the days where beef was so cheap because they were getting fed with corn stuff. Now that people want grass-fed, so they reverted that back, immediately, and it makes a huge difference. Like, steak in South America compared to steak in the United States,
it's so good,
dude. It's a night and day.
It's night and day. In Argentina, the churrasco, it's juicy, it's flavorful. I mean, when you see them just putting salt and pepper on it,
that's it. Yeah.
That's it. That's all you need, and you just throw that on the hot, plancha or grill or whatever. Oh God,
it's cheap. They made it cheap, where it's accessible to anybody. To be honest, you think about that. Like,
it is.
Like, everybody there, eating steak is a common dish, while in America, eating steak is a luxury here.
Yeah, it's really true. Well, the other thing too that we have a problem with is the cut of meat. Everyone in the States, I don't want to say everyone, that's too general, but a lot of people focus mainly on filet mignon because it's the shining star of when you eat out. But there's so many other cuts of meat that are more affordable that I think a lot of people just don't know how to cook with, which is the problem.
Well, it's not trendy. That's why.
It's not trendy. I don't buy filet mignon anymore. I stopped buying it a couple of years ago. There's really no point. There's no flavor. There's no fat, and it's overpriced. It's $26 for 6-7 ounces. Yeah. Why? When you can buy a New York strip for 19 for
less than that.
Less than that. The same thing with a picanha. The fat content on a Brazilian picanha. Oh, it's amazing.
Well, you need that to cook with. People don't understand sometimes that. I think that brings the flavor. I mean, obviously, when you eat it, you can cut the fat out, but you need that to that kind of brings that natural flavor to the meat itself.
That's right.
Especially if you grill it, like because grilling is a brutal heat and it dries up the meat so much faster. So you need that fat to protect it.
To protect it, absolutely. To tenderize it, to allow that meat to have more flavor, and the more fat, the better.
The funny thing is that you see people who cook filet mignon in this pan is seared, they put butter in it. I'm like, well, the reason why you put butter in it is because there's not enough fat.
Yeah. Well, like, I make bison because bison's a leaner meat and it's better for you, but it's more expensive, but you still have to add fat back to bison. So you're going to grab pork fat or beef fat or duck fat, and you're going to add that back into the bison because that's where the flavor comes from.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that turkey burgers dry out a lot. Well, you're typically using a leaner cut of meat. There's no fat content in turkey. So you got to add fat back to that anyway.
Yeah. So for example, like turkey burgers tend to dry out so fast. So I tend to, the way I cook it, I have sunflower oil, I add a little bit of butter into that, and then just because at the end of the day, it's such a lean meat because they're probably using turkey breast to grind already, and that's right. That alone already is already dried enough.
So here's my ultimate secret for a non-dry turkey burger. Ready for this?
Got it.
Zucchini. Shredded zucchini.
Because it has a lot of water content.
There's a lot of water content. So shred your zucchini, squeeze a little bit of it out, but not a lot. Let some of that stay in there, and then mix that in with your turkey burger patty. It almost melts, it almost disappears, but that water content helps to keep the meat hydrated when you're cooking.
And it acts as a filler as well, which is nice. It makes it burger
exactly. It's a good binder. So zucchini grated works really well in anything that's a leaner meat that you want to cook to a further along temperature.
I do it with onions. Onions holds a lot of water, and and it gives the flavor that I need to taste sometimes. So, but I do like the butter taste sometimes. So that's when I add a little bit of butter.
Yeah. Well, for me being primarily dairy-free, I use fake butter, like a vegan butter.
Ghee at all?
I do. Depends on what I'm cooking. I made lamb the other day, and I used some ghee for that just to get that kind of clarified taste.
Yeah.
But
it's healthy though. People don't understand. People underestimate ghee a lot.
Yeah. It's really, really good. But for the most part, I just use a vegan butter. It has the same kind of.
Yeah. What's the reasoning behind non-dairy for you?
It's dietary, man. It's the same situation. Yeah, just it can't really break down dairy as well as my whole body is messed up.
Can you take lactose pills for that? Just wondering.
Yeah, I can, but it doesn't have they don't work as well. And dairy for me varies in the form in which I take it. So the closer to liquid the form is, the more susceptible to dietary problems I'm going to have.
Damn.
Like no ice cream. Oh, well, but I eat cashew ice cream anyway.
Okay, there we go.
So I eat cashew ice cream, coconut ice cream, things
coconut
like that.
Ice cream is so good, dude. The Thailand coconut ice cream. Oh.
Yeah. So I try.
But you can eat like cheese and stuff.
I can in small quantities, but I
don't know if I can live without cheese. Like cheese seems like such a staple for like something for me.
Well, there's a brand called Follow Your Heart, and they do a really good job at coming up with a vegan cheese.
Yeah, the vegan cheese is amazing though.
Yeah, it's as close as you're going to get to having the real thing. I mean, I'm not going to die.
Is it good?
It's good. No, they do a good job at it.
Regular cheese.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I've had vegan cheese, it's been pretty awful.
Yeah.
Pretty awful.
Yeah. There's a brand called Daya. Not to rain down on them, but their food tastes like cardboard. I mean, no matter what they make, it tastes like hot plastic. And what's funny is that a lot of gluten-free people will see, that I'm using cheeses and things like that in my meals, but I'm using the best product that I can find. And Follow Your Heart is like $6 for 5 slices or 6 slices.
And it's expensive. It shouldn't be that way.
No, it shouldn't be.
I completely agree. Like, I mean, I guess going back to my statement, like eating organic shouldn't be expensive. At the end of the day, it literally I think everyone should have a right for this kind of healthy diet. And because the demand is not, imagine if everybody have access to this. You know how much food in general would be, how much cheaper would this be?
I think the government
It also goes back to like production, right? It takes longer.
It
It like
does.
takes more time to make things that are fully organic. You don't get as much production. So then it's like
Well, growing it
it's
takes
all
longer. I agree. Growing
yeah,
it takes
growing takes longer and you don't get as much out of it. So like without
yeah.
like the GMOs and stuff, like you don't get as much as like you could otherwise.
If our government at any point in time, whenever they decide to do whatever they're going to do, would look at subsidies in the way of organic and make that process a little bit more accessible, a little bit more easy for farmers, I think you'll see a lot more people eventually starting to move to that practice. And I think that there's some kind of there's a proud element too that would come along with that, being able to stand by your product and say that you've put the absolute best that you can for people to consume this product. So I think it also stems from the government not being able to assist farmers the way that they should. And I mean, farmers in general need more help now more than ever, especially with COVID being the situation that it is. Because when you think about the supply chain, all the restaurants that are closing and where are their products going? They're not able to sell to those restaurants anymore. So I think those guys really need more attention.
Yeah, and one of the things is that I mean, going back to the whole topic of just organic and a lot of I guess a lot of food sources are trying to kind of navigate around the water and and my rant last week was about eggs, right? And there's so many different type of eggs, like farm raised eggs and cage free eggs, and then all the different type of eggs. Ultimately, it only
They're all the
matters.
same.
They're all the same to one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as you give me my organic brown eggs, that's all I care about. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have organic eggs, you know what the food source is from those eggs get fed, the chickens, things like that. It trails back. But if you try to
Go ahead, Michael.
no. But what I'm saying is that you see the different variation of those eggs and they matter by $1, $2. Buying organic eggs, it's like expensive, and it shouldn't be. Like because at the end of the day, like it comes down to if the volume is there, I feel like it could, and everyone will want that, and they have accessibility, and this should be the standard in the first place. You know what I mean? We shouldn't expect less than this.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And
You're
eggs
right,
are an interesting subject too, because I went through a process where I tried different eggs and I had different reactions based on the different type of eggs that I was able to eat. Yeah, and I think eggs are funny for people in general. They're one of the tougher things to digest. But now I use only farm raised eggs, and what I love about it is that they include the name of the farm on the package. And they also include the name of the chicken that you get the eggs from.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's so cool. So, like, oh, this is
the
Irene.
names of the chickens?
The names of the chickens.
Wait, what's the brand of this eggs?
I'll have to get the name for you.
Yeah.
Because I can't think off the top of my head.
I'm guessing you cannot buy that in Costco.
Maybe. I mean, it's in a blackish container. I'll have to get the name for you, but they're fantastic, and I for me, no problem with those eggs. They're great.
That's awesome. So have you tried any other like organic eggs? I'm just wondering, how did that happen to you? Like,
yeah, I mean, I can't say that I've tried them all, but I've tried 3 or 4 handful of different styles, and some of them I can do, some of them I can't.
It's like gambling. Like you're like, oh, today I'm gonna try this egg.
It's true.
It's like Russian roulette. Am I
really
gonna?
True. It's really true.
So I'm guessing, like, obviously eating this kind of changing eating habits impact your significant other as well, right? How's she handling this?
Fantastic. I mean, she's adapted the same diet that I do, which has been great because we keep a very, strict kind of household diet. But thanks to the culinary experience that I have, it has not restricted us. I mean, we eat like kings and queens, almost daily, just because of the access that I have to that experience.
To that knowledge, yeah.
To that knowledge. So I made gluten free pita last night, or I think the night before. We made lamb. I made fresh tzatziki. We made a risotto from scratch. So we had what should have been a $30 or $40 meal per person in a fine dining restaurant.
Yep.
In a household where there are a lot of dietary restrictions. And I don't think that there's a lot of people that have access to that, which is why I've been trying to offer up my culinary personal chef, private chef experience to the people in the area where I live. But it's tough because everybody is obviously concerned of, you don't have a restaurant, so hey, it's harder.
No, it is. I mean, safety factor, healthy factor. I guess that. Trust me.
Right.
Doesn't Texas have some kind of cottage law though? I thought they did.
Yeah, we have the cottage law here, which helps.
What is the cottage law?
Cottage law allows me to produce certain amount of food and certain types of food and certain styles of food at home and then sell it. So we've got a farmer's market that I'm working on getting a license for, so I can go sell at the farmer's market. That's awesome. Yeah. Ultimately, I will open a restaurant at some point in my life. I don't know when it's going to be, but I'm pushing towards more of a ghost kitchen. So if anybody's listening that wants to fund a ghost kitchen, let me know.
There you go.
Because they're catching on right now. They're extremely successful. I'm seeing the resurgence of this delivery kind of continuing to be a priority, especially with COVID and more people wanting stuff at home and not going out. So ultimately, I think I'd like to start with a ghost kitchen.
Can you explain that to people who don't know what that means?
Yeah, so a ghost kitchen is basically your ability to have a restaurant and every aspect that goes along with a restaurant, but you have no people that dine in. So you're not at the same mercy of having parking, handicap accessibility, bathrooms, square footage requirements, ADA. None of that becomes a factor. You're literally just a kitchen that is available for pickup and to go. Carrabba's and Outback pioneered one of the first chain versions of this about 2-3 years ago. They've got one down in Pembroke Pines, South Florida, where they are only open for takeout and delivery.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you'll see more and more of these places. There's a restaurant chain that just started doing it recently. It's off the top of my head. I can't think of it. But they're actually selling product within the kitchen of their own restaurant chain. So they've created their own ghost kitchen within a kitchen.
Are they as regulated as a regular restaurant?
Yes. Same regulations are completely followed.
Same food safety, probably.
Same food safety, same fire suppression, same everything that you would expect from a regular restaurant.
I've seen these ghost kitchens on like all these apps here in San Francisco, and I'm always like, now I go on and I look and see if the restaurant is real or if it's a ghost kitchen. And I've just been scared to order from them, so I just won't order from those ghost kitchens because I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. Like this could be just anywhere. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, it has to follow the same regulations. The only thing I would warn people again, if you have gluten allergies, is the cross contamination because I could rent a shared kitchen from somebody, and I've seen them here, and I thought about it, but they have no way of regulating the contamination in their kitchen.
That's true.
So the only way that I could open anything is if it was only me, or if it was somebody in a similar situation where we could guarantee that our customers, our consumers, were only being fed from this non-cross-contaminated kitchen.
Well, otherwise, you make a standard out of that. Hey, anybody who's using this kitchen, and especially if you control that, hey.
I also find it fishy when restaurants don't name they don't have the name of their kitchen, like they name it something else, for their ghost kitchen, which I feel like they're just trying to get away from maybe like a bad Yelp review, and like for their name, and then they're opening up a ghost kitchen which does.
So how do you know like a restaurant uses a ghost kitchen?
No, so I look up the name of the restaurant, and if it's not on Google or you can't find it, you only find it on these apps, then it seems like that's not like it's these are real kitchens. You know that these restaurants, they're just the other restaurant that is at this address. They're just like renaming themselves as something else.
So it's like there's two restaurants, the same address in a sense.
Yeah, gotcha. It's like, so this address has a real restaurant there, but there's also a different named restaurant on the apps that are doing just specific like chicken sandwiches or just certain things. Yeah.
No, I mean it can seem kind of fishy, but it's a more cost-effective way of being able to offer a service that is prohibitive to a lot of other people. I mean, if you think about a brick and mortar and the cost associated with opening up a restaurant, I mean,
the rent, man,
for the triple net, on rent alone. But think about the other things that have to go into it: parking, where are you located? Are you in a high traffic area?
Yep.
Do you have an ADA accessible? Is your back door accessible? Do you have a grease trap? Do you have a hand railing? Can somebody in a wheelchair turn around in your bathroom? How many seats do you have to turn around? Security.
It's a lot of little things people don't think about, and then only that the liability insurance goes behind as well.
Yeah.
And then also on top of that, you have the food safety certifications, things like that, making sure the regulations stay up to code. Yeah. Everything matters. It adds up.
I guess it's like the next step after like having a food truck, right? So like the food truck was like more mobile, and then this is just going into a kitchen that's already been approved for everything, and then you're just doing takeout from there.
Yeah. So that's I think the next step for me is I'd ideally like to get into a ghost kitchen at some point and be able to start producing food, specifically for delivery and takeout, in a safe and informed decision-making way for people to feel comfortable. And you don't have to have gluten allergies to eat my food. I mean, there's you can't tell. If I blindfolded a group of people and fed them food, dinner in a dark, dining in the dark, they would not be able to tell that my food was gluten free. There's absolutely no way.
I volunteer for that, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah. The next time we're all traveling somewhere, we'll find a place with a kitchen and we'll do it up.
Yeah, for sure, man.
No, I think there needs to be a lot more of that, because a lot of times when you go to like more healthier foods or just like a specific type of food, it just is worse. It's just like way worse than what
the mindset. Gluten free has to be healthy, in a sense. From just saying it before. Right. Everybody said, hey, can we eat gluten free? Like, it doesn't really necessarily have to be healthy food or like a salad or whatever it is, because it goes a lot into that thought process. How do you overcome that hurdle of that image, right? And I think if it becomes more common, I think, like, for example, Chipotle does a good job at that, to be honest. But obviously they still have their own issue with the cross-contamination, because guess what? The flour tortilla situation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and even though, and I think they got, I think recently in trouble a couple of years ago for that part of it. So they say, hey, if you make sure that obviously the only way they place the tortilla is only in that tortilla area. So don't order tortillas, but everything else, is fine. But,
Domino's came out with their gluten-free pizza a year or two ago, but
really,
they specifically say on the box, and there's an asterisk out there that they cannot guarantee cross-contamination. And if you've ever seen, which almost everybody has, the back of a pizza place, there's flour everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the air. You walk out of there smelling like flour or semolina. So there's no way that they could guarantee that. And even the pizza cutters, I will say, California Pizza Kitchen does a good job.
I think Blaze does a good job too, because I know a friend who cannot eat gluten, and Blaze has done a good job where they make it in their own little platter that's only gluten-free, and they change your glove for you and say, hey, is it allergy? Then they change the gloves. They've done a really good job at that. I'll give them that credit.
There's places that they'll buy prepackaged dough. It comes in, it's sealed, and then as soon as they take it out, they change their gloves, they change the cutting boards, they wipe everything down. They take the proper procedures and things like that. Places like that are able to do that, I think it's fantastic. They have the understanding, they have the awareness, and it just makes my life and other people's lives a lot easier, because then you want to go and you want to frequent those places. I mean, if I want a pizza, there's really only a couple places I can go, and it's even less and less now.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
So what are the top 3 things you tend to make then at home? Just wondering, like, now that you're in COVID, so then, like, do you think that's easy and someone can probably learn from you? Just wondering, what would you?
Man, everything. I mean, it's we cook a lot of lamb, because I think lamb has some of the best flavor. Bang for your buck. It's $8, $9 a pound for ground lamb, and you can use it in just about anything. Tacos, lamb tacos are really good. There's a lot of flavor there. We could do stuffed peppers with rice, a lot of vegetables. We did a stir fry the other night, which was just really great, with rice noodles. Cut up some vegetables. We do a lot of broccoli. We do a lot of cauliflower. Cook a lot of kale. So it just varies, but I try to carry a culinary or international theme with whatever the dish is. So if we're making something, everything has that flavor profile.
Yeah.
And that's what we stick to.
Yeah, you should make it to episodes how to make some of those dishes and tell you it goes.
Yeah.
It can go fast, viral very easily.
I had a couple videos on my my Facebook and on my Instagram that were kind of taking you through just some recipes and things. But the process of it is I'm not very good. Hey, I'm a chef. I'm not a video editor. So I lose a lot of people after the 30-minute mark where they're like, okay, I get it. I can do it. So
you need those 20-second videos where you all you do is just show like the vegetables and then boom, they're all cut, and then boom, they're in a pan, and then boom, like that.
Well, I try to add commentary when I was doing these videos, and I need to get back and doing them again. But talking through cutting techniques, washing techniques, flavor pairings, overcoming the fear of using a particular ingredient. I made a dish with leeks the other day, and a lot of people don't know what a leek is.
That's true.
Fennel's probably that thing that you walk by every time at the grocery store and you don't know what it is because it's over by the bok choy and people are afraid of bok choy too.
Yeah.
So
bok choy is so good. I love bok choy.
It's delicious. Cabbages and all the things that are in that category where people get afraid of them. Those are the things that I try to cook with more and talk to so that the people that are watching, whoever is watching, walks away with some kind of knowledge. If they say, wow, I didn't know that a fennel goes really well with apple, or blue cheese pairs really well with a fig.
So you're seasoning, what's called pairing in a sense, right?
Yeah,
seasoning
pairing.
Plus food pairing, just the way how it combines different flavors together naturally. So.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, the walking away from the fear of a recipe. Don't feel like you've got to follow 1 tablespoon of butter, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. There's creative freedom in the kitchen.
That's what I do.
So,
I'm like, oh shoot, exactly 1 tablespoon of salt. Okay.
Well, you gotta start somewhere though.
Listen,
I think you gotta start somewhere. I think that's how I learned in a sense, but then once you realize you get more comfortable at it, I mean, Robert, trust me, after you do maybe 100 recipes through HelloFresh, you get comfortable with it. You can understand why they pair in certain ways, why they make the sauce this way. Then you start being a little bit more creative because at that point, you know what it tastes like already. And I think it's true though. It really does. You become more confident about it. Like you said, Jason, how do you build that confidence up? How do you get rid of those fear in mind? Okay, those new ingredients, right? And I think one, by doing it, showing them more often. 2, by showing different techniques, how to use it. I think that's
education.
Education, and you bring value to the audience, right?
Yeah.
So I completely agree with that part, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, just using ingredients that people are uncomfortable with. I think that's the funnest part too about cooking is seeing something that you're uncomfortable with. I made sunchokes the other day, and I know what they are. I know what they tasted like, but I never prepared them at home. And you get that little, uneasy feeling. You're like, am I doing it right? How do I prepare this? And sunchoke is a Jerusalem artichoke that, a lot of people have probably never had. It looks kind of like a ginger root, and you can eat the skin, or you can peel the skin. You can dice it. You can puree it. You can roast it. It's an interesting type of vegetable, but it's one of those things where maybe it's hard to find, or maybe you see.
Well, it's not as popular, right? So therefore, and it's not quote unquote trending, right? In a sense.
Right.
And so I remember what's it called? Beets, right? Beets was not trending 5-6 years ago, and then suddenly, boom, it hit the market really hardcore. When I went to Expo West 3-4 years ago, I saw Beets crackers, Beets chips, Beets everything, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then the following year, what was it that came out? Chickpeas chips, and suddenly one section of veggie just became popular out of nowhere. I feel like someone just threw a random in the dark. Hey, let's make this a trend.
Yeah, it's
like
weird.
the you watch the Devil Wears Prada where they're choosing out colors and stuff, and they're this is the trend for this year, and this is everything. That's how it is for food too. There's throw it out. Oh, today is matcha day, so we're gonna put matcha on everything.
When we sit in food and beverage seminars, I mean, it's interesting how the technomic research that they'll come to the table with, and they'll say these are the trends for this year. 2 years ago, turmeric was one of the hot cocktail flavors.
Turmeric, though, it's so good for food, though. People don't realize that. But Indians have been using that for so long for food,
Yep. Yeah, so what used to be a staple is now becoming a hot trend.
It's ridiculous though. So I go to Expo West for organic food every single year because I want to see the new technology behind it, what they're being pushed and stuff. And I don't get me wrong, I like it when, obviously new R&D comes out with a different type of, combination of pairing food. Like for example, this company made this baked chips that's made out of eggs and avocado, olive oil, and cheese. And I'm like, this is like the most keto-friendly chip I ever had in my entire life. And it tastes so good, but the whole bag itself is like $6. I'm like, holy shit, I paid $6 for a 12-ounce bag of chips, but it's
that technology that they've done though.
Well, yeah,
it's
but
all R&D.
The R&D, I guess, but I mean, but you can see what's up and coming and running in a sense. So one of the things is that it's nice to have that kind of exposure, but at the same time, are they doing it for a gimmick scheme? Are they doing it for a profit in a sense? Like what's really, kind of like the message behind it in a sense? And like, listen, I think organic and gluten-free and all those healthy labeling has grown more popular as, the last 10 years gone by, right? More popular than before, for sure. But again, going back to my original statement, I think this should have been the standard to be in the first place with.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in overall, I mean, just to kind of wrap to wrap this up to a certain degree, in a sense that people tend to kind of like, you have to be rich to eat organic. I think at the end of the day, imagine if everybody can start doing their own local farms or not farms, local gardens and stuff like that. You can grow your own thing. I'm not sure you have done that in Texas as well, but I know a lot of friends during the quarantine, they start growing their own squash, they start growing their own tomatoes and stuff like that.
I have a garden outside and fresh vegetables. Well, I had tomatoes until the rabbits ate it.
You have rabbits there?
Yeah, we have a ton of rabbits, and I had this beautiful San Marzano tomato plant. It's still growing out there, and I think we had 9 or 10 tomatoes on it. And the rabbits, they came in. They didn't eat them while they were green. They waited until they turned red.
That's how you know it's good, though.
They ate them. They ate them all. So they took all of my tomatoes.
Damn.
But now I primarily just focus on herbs, because herbs they're so expensive at the grocery store.
They are, for no reason, apparent reason.
They're very easy to grow at home. So even if you are afraid to start a garden, go outside or go find a windowsill and plant some rosemary, plant some basil, thyme, oregano.
They're very easy to grow.
They're very, very easy to grow.
Yeah.
Scallions, green onions, they grow like weeds. They're very, very easy. So take those things after you've bought them from the grocery store, snip them, wash them, and stick them in some dirt
or water. And you stick them in water sometimes.
Or water, and they'll start to grow.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think just in general, I think now that people are have more spare time, they can actually put the time and effort into it. But once you start getting going, it's actually very easy to grow stuff, and you build the momentum up though.
Yeah, and it's fun too. I mean,
it's rewarding. It's like, I grew this.
I grew this. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a sense of accomplishment, but it's also a sense of like pride behind that. Like, and then you start like I feel like in terms of for that, I think that's a good way to go about that. And like I said, you don't have to be rich to do that. As long as you can do hydroponic stuff very easily. But
yeah. Let's move on to our final section, the free range venting session. Let's let Jason start if you wanna start the vent off.
Yes, this is a thorn in my side. I'm probably going to eat my words in like 5 or 10 years if I ever do this. But when you're on Instagram and you see a recipe or you see a food picture that you really like and you click on it and there's no recipe and it says link in bio, that drives me so absolutely nuts. And I'm like, okay, I'll bite because it looks delicious. I click the link in the bio. Then it takes me to your entire family history of like 10 paragraphs before I have to scroll down and get to the recipe. So now you've just wasted 30 minutes of my day because I had to click your link. I had to go through your story. I had to go past 10 Home Depot ads. And finally, I get to the recipe.
How about the ultimate trolling?
Wow.
it drives me.
You want it just to be more efficient, like
more efficient.
Would you be okay if it just had the link in the bio
Yeah.
and then you could find it easily?
I'm okay with that. Look, everybody wants to push their website. Everybody wants to make money on online. Fine, I totally get it. I respect it. At some point, I'll probably do it too. But make the recipe first.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you can say, if you've enjoyed this recipe, here's how I made it. Here's a history. Here's a story. Something so that it's shorter.
They want to make sure you read about it first, man, before you get the free stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
They want you to get invested. They're like, we need you to get invested in their story first.
There was a lady the other day that she was using Bible verses. And great. Whatever makes you happy, whatever you want to share and express your media, that's perfect.
Before showing the recipe?
Yeah. So it was 2 long Bible verses before you got to the recipe. I totally respect whatever you want to do.
Hang on, come on. How did she relate to that? I'm just wondering, how did she kind of brought that point? Like,
there was literally no, it was just like one of this, like, very, very Christian woman, and she was also a mom, and she's also a cook. Yeah. So that's her segue into whatever she does, and I'm sure a lot of followers are that same way. But she just, like, maybe it's become expected. So it was, here's the food photo on Instagram. Here's the click link in bio. You get to there, and then it's a Bible verse, and then it's the recipe. And I'm like, again, I respect what you want to do, but show me the damn recipe first.
It might be that people don't know how efficient they need to be with especially this generation of, like, as soon as we see it, we want to see, like, we want instant gratification, right? So we want to be able to get to it and see it right away. And they just don't understand it.
The next time that you scroll to a recipe, you're going to think of this, and you're going to remember how annoying it is, and it's going to forever bug you now.
Because now you think about it now.
I have a friend of mine who started a food blog type of thing, and she's cooking stuff, and she has recipes, and I clicked on her link in the bio, and her thing was actually done very well. So I had no issues with having to scroll all over the place to find stuff. It was very, very well done.
It drives me nuts. I called out one lady on Instagram. I said, "You have too many ads on your page." Yeah, I told her.
Wait, how did she reply back to that?
She was very like, this is my way of living. This is how I pay for. Yeah. And then she told me, she was like, "Well, it took me 4 hours to make that dish." I said, "No, it took you 40 minutes to make the dish. It took you 4 hours to photograph it." I'm not telling you to go out and buy a Nikon DSLR and spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
One of the links on my Instagram, or one of the wording, it says no fancy cameras, because I use my phone camera for everything that I take pictures of. Yeah. Because it's all about the food.
Me too.
I'm not setting up a grape and a pepper and a this and a that just so I could take a picture of it. I want people to experience.
Well, you're telling me you don't nail your tomato into the perfect spot? You know what I mean? Or you
don't have those tweezers that you place the cilantro the right way
to the spot.
I'm looking for tweezers right now so I could do that for my Instagram pictures.
All right, so what's your rant?
So mine, since we're doing a food related one, I just want to say how much I hate kale. I hate kale. It tastes horrible. Every way I've had it, I've never had it good. People are like, "Oh, you do it this way," and then no, I guarantee you come over here with kale, you make it. I've just hated every single way. It's always bitter. There's never been a way where I've tasted that it's good. So, and I don't like it when people are like, "Oh, this is so good," but it's just not. I think they just brainwash themselves into believing that things taste good when it's just not good. Things like kale are like that.
You just don't I don't like it. The bitterness taste.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
So have you ever had the Asian bitter melon?
I don't like bitter melon either. No.
I see. So
I just don't like bitter tasting things.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So bitter melon's a very healthy, super healthy Asian vegetable, and a lot of Asian parents force on the kids, even though it tastes like super bitter.
Tastes
so
horrible. Yeah, I
it
think
tastes
I think
horrible.
my mom has tried to do that when we were younger, and I just was like, no, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
eat it. It just tastes
But it's
so
very,
bad.
very healthy. It's really good for your digestion system as
It's
well.
very good for digestion. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my mom used to
Uh-uh.
force that, and she used to like kind of bribe us on that, where she slices a little slice of like the pork belly in it, and then saute that in the bitter melon, and like try to make it taste. But even though you hit every single time, literally you eat the piece, it's just super bitter. So it got to a point that I guess I'm used to it, so I don't care as much. As I build a tolerance of bitter.
I don't do
Have you
anything bitter.
done-
Asparagus, if you don't cook it right, it's very bitter, and I
very
don't like
bitter.
that. But
Yeah.
there's other ways you cook it where it tastes good. So
Yeah.
I like there's ways that I've had like there's stuff that's like bitter, but like if you change the way you do it, it tastes good. I've
you
never
done,
had kale good.
Kale chips. Have you tried those?
I don't like those either. No.
No.
Really?
With Parmesan on them?
Yeah, as I say, put Parmesan on them, it
Yeah.
tastes the flavor out, like
It
the bitterness.
counteracts the bitterness a little bit.
Maybe
Yeah.
I don't. I've had those, but I
or
haven't had
buffalo.
anything kale that I like.
Buffalo kale chips is good too.
Yeah.
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 But you like spicy, and that takes the bitterness out of the flavor and the saltiness, though. Okay, all right.
Yeah, just very anti kale.
Nah, I mean it's. I think in terms of like food wise, I think kale. I think bitterness is an acquired taste. I think everything is an acquired taste, right? For example, if you didn't like it the first time, you're gonna have a bad stigma behind it. Just like people who have sushi, right? People, every time I talk to somebody who hates sushi, it's because they had a bad, poor first experience in general.
Yeah.
And then once they fix that, I think like it changes their mind. Or sometimes it could just be they don't like the texture of raw fish.
Yeah.
Simple as that. You
Yeah.
know?
I don't care for the taste of fish in general.
Really? You don't care?
Yeah. No, it's weird. I love
Wait,
all
raw fish or
kinds of
cooked
food.
fish?
Either.
Really? I
yeah.
love fish.
See, there's some people like that. I love
Fish tacos,
fish.
man? Oh, man, I love fish tacos.
I love
Hot
fish
fish
also.
to me is even more weird than like I could do a sashimi,
Yeah.
like a yellowtail if you've soaked it and it's the acid has beaten it up. So like I'm not tasting. I like it cold, but hot fish, it's weird. There's a thing about it. I don't know. I worked in a restaurant where I had to clean salmon, and it was one of the dishes that was always on, and we would get in fresh salmon, and to cut it and clean it and just seeing it every day and then seeing it in the pan and smelling it, and
You can't do it.
I just can't do salmon. I think that ruined fish for me.
That's probably why. That experience itself. And
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I love eating fish in general just because I think it's an alternative protein in a sense.
Yeah.
So for me, the last couple of years, I've been trying to cut down on as much red meat intake to have a better balance in a sense.
Yeah.
And so I made like a trout, garlic, Parmesan fish baked together. So you get the cheese melt on top of the fish, nicely toasted, and then done in the oven. It's so good. Like
Interesting. I've never had fish with cheese.
Dude,
It's
let me tell you.
it's a faux pas. There's some
seems so
people.
weird.
Yeah, there's some people that can go one direction, and there's some people
Yeah.
that can go the other. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
not all fish can pair well with cheese.
Oh, completely agree. Yeah.
It's tough.
But food pairing, like going back to what you're saying, the food pairing is, I think, something that people tend to like overlook. And when it comes to creativity, in terms of creating new, I guess, recipes, I think you gotta know your ingredients a little bit more.
Yeah.
Understand it, not only from a tasting standpoint, but from a texture too.
Yeah, I think building textures is very important. Building the right layers and how you're gonna. It's probably more advanced than somebody wants to, but how you're gonna eat through it. The process of assembling, of chewing, of all of that kind of goes into it.
Like, for example, I cannot do codfish with cheese because the codfish smell itself and the way how the texture it is, it doesn't go well together.
Right.
For example, I did a cheese lobster, a cheese lobster, like a broiled, literally like it's like a broiled lobster. I stuffed it with mozzarella cheese in the middle of it, and I finished it with Asiago cheese, like a little bit, and kind of like browned it a little bit. Dude, let me tell you, by itself, I didn't even season the lobster. It was just amazing. Like the saltiness of the cheese brought out the flavor of the lobster,
Right.
and naturally it was just simply amazing.
Well, lobster mac and cheese is one of the hot trending dishes.
There you go.
That's
Yeah.
true.
But they use cheddar though. See, they use like sharp cheddar for that kind of stuff though. So they don't use, Like, I mean, a lot of people make the Lustre mac and cheese slightly different, but from what I've seen so far, they use sharp cheddar for that kind of stuff and that super aged cheese for that. But yeah, but
It's just
imagine
mac and cheese. It's very easy to put stuff like it. Just add anything to mac and cheese.
Yeah,
So
whatever.
it's hard to go wrong with it.
Yeah. All right. So my rant is also kind of food related. I hate how pricey beef is right now because of the whole COVID supply chain situation. Let me tell you, so before quarantine started, I actually went to this farm place, buy local beef. I knew the price was gonna go up, so I bought about 20 pounds of steak, beef, and short ribs beforehand and froze it, everything. It literally said about 2.89 a pound. Okay, now when I went back to the same place, it says 9.99 a pound for type of cut for a beef loin,
Wow.
or New York steak. When I bought, let's see, about 12 different slices of New York strip steak, and I froze it. It literally said $7.99 a pound. Now it says $16 a pound there now. And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like,
Wait, but Mike, do you want COVID beef or do you want non-COVID beef? That's
I think that
I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny.
okay. First of all, I think this whole COVID exposed the whole supply chain issue. I think it exposed it dramatically in terms of the way they handle it. It exposed a big weakness behind it, the food source itself. It's not a COVID beef situation. I think it comes down to is how those plants is handling this situation in general, right? And you realize, guess what? Those plants in the first place, they were not following standard guideline of just, food safety things. And
Right.
that alone is scary. Now that they're more visible, they're more transparent about things like that, they have to clean their acts up. And that's the reason why they had to shut down a lot of those plants. They use COVID as an excuse to shut down. No, it's just because they were being exposed to a lot more shit now, and they have to be more careful what they showcase into the media. And that's the reason why I think it's just now they're starting to open that back up slowly because they had to revamp the whole assembly line. They had to revamp how they handle stuff. And there were just factories just packed people next to each other handling meat. And now because of COVID, they're forced to have more space, more separation, and therefore the production line has slowed down dramatically, and the price is jacked up. But guess what?
Do you think this is a ongoing thing? So like prices are going to be high going forward?
I think the price is going to remain high for quite some time. One, because they don't know obviously the whole situation of COVID, but two, I think now they find out they can get away with it now. You see what I'm saying? People are still buying beef right now. They can get away with it unless demand drops dramatically or local food source picks back up dramatically. I just think that overall demand of beef and stuff like that is going to be just because now they find out they can get away with it. But obviously, potentially with the whole economical situation, that might change everything, right? So, if we hit a super, deep reception.
Or maybe this is like the price, like it might be slightly higher, but it might be like the price that beef was supposed to be anyways before.
Well, supply demand, right? So it's
Well, yeah, I think you have alternatives, right? So the cost, even though the cost may remain stagnant or the cost may be going up or down, depending on the vendor, I think that the barriers to entry that used to exist to get into the beef industry are not there with things like Beyond Meat. So you've got more people that are encroaching. The demand has decreased for beef, therefore the cost of it needs to rise. It's kind of that economic.
Isn't it like I think like it's only 4 to 5 major, I guess, food companies that controls most of the meat market.
Right.
I think like 80% of the meat market, something crazy like that.
Right. No, and that happened recently with pork. So there was a major outbreak in a pork facility, and I think they shut down 3 or 4 of them. And they were very concerned that rising prices in pork and the accessibility of pork to the consumer was going to change. I haven't seen anything really that dramatic change so far in my shopping, but I'll tell you what, Texas is so weird that it never really seems to get affected, other than the rising cases.
You guys have so much cattle there. It's not funny, so much cows there. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of everything. The prices are fantastic on food here in general in Texas. Yeah.
Well, I think Texas does a good job sourcing the local food. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They tend to take less from outside and try to grow within a lot more. So therefore, they're not relying on one side. So I'm not sure if you guys seen Patriot Act yet on how's the food supply chain impacted, due to COVID. Check that episode out. Let me tell you, the whole food supply chain, how we're so reliable on those six, it's called major food companies. Let me tell you, it's just you start realizing, wow, it's just mind blowing. People don't understand, we see this with beef today. Guess what? This can happen easily with chicken. This can happen easily with, like you said, pork, right? This can happen easily with anything. And it just happened with flour, right? How hard was it for you to find flour at the regular grocery stores to bake bread? Because everybody just, oh, you know what? I'm going to bake bread because guess what? Just because I got nothing else to do.
It wasn't an issue for me, but for you guys.
Well, yeah,
it wasn't an issue for me either because I wasn't baking bread.
You were baking. All the gluten-free stuff was still on the shelf, so that was great.
There we go.
We went to the store the other day. I think we brought like 12 loaves of bread and just stuck them in the freezer because nobody else was buying. So,
yeah, but the thing is that it's just that it can happen literally this kind of like limitation on just focusing on one or a couple sources. It's kind of like, okay, if there's another, at least for me now, I understand, okay, if another pandemic happens, I know what to do now. At least that's a good lesson learned for a lot of people, because now next time something happens like this, you know how to react better, right?
Yeah, but, well, you hope. I guess it depends on the pandemic type, right?
That's true, yeah. But but in general,
it also might change. So next time, not everyone would buy toilet paper. They might buy something else instead. That's over purchase of something else. So it might be that you're learning, but then everyone's learning. So it's a whole different
tell you, I still
problem.
don't until today. I still don't know why we out of TPs. Okay, I don't get that. Never understood that.
I never understood it either. I never. I can give a story about like my roommate went out and bought a ton of toilet paper and water, like bottled water.
Yeah.
Right before everything was shutting down. And I was like, I don't think a pandemic's going to stop the water line.
No.
So I don't know why we just purchased water. Like, what's so much water? She bought like 6 cases of 20 of those water bottles. And then double 2-gallon jugs too. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, okay.
No, I think, like I said, it exposed the whole supply chain food issue too as well. And I think supply chain food in general I think the standard needs to go up. That's my number one thing. Number two is that I still don't get, this whole, it should not, we're such a big country. We know how many people we have to feed, right? And we export so much food out. It's not even funny. Like, we export so much stuff to China, export so much stuff to South America, And the crazy part is that people in our own country are starving, and I'm like, it just, for me, it just makes no sense for certain things, Like,
yeah. Oh, everybody throws away so much food too.
The food waste. Don't get me started with that.
True.
Yeah, the food waste here is terrible. I mean, I'm guilty of it, and I try not to be. Try to use as much as I possibly can. Whatever it might be.
Well, Robert, this is why you like food. What's called HelloFresh, because they give you enough quantity for you to make your food. You don't have any food waste to throw away, any kind of extra ingredients, right? It's very precise. Yeah, even though, yes, it might cost you a little bit more yourself to get that exact precise ingredients. But, for the average, but Jason, you and I, we buy a bunch of stuff, and we obviously, for certain food, you only take some other amount of things, and then you repurpose those ingredients for something else, right? And so, at least for us, we're used to that. But an average person who doesn't cook cannot think like that because they don't have that awareness.
For me, I didn't have very much food waste just because I was like ordering food all the time, and I just eat whatever food they give me, and then that's it. Like, there's no waste that way. But when you're cooking, you might overbuy certain things, or like nothing's in the right quantities that you need it. So it's like mixing and matching.
If you go to the grocery store, or like to the butcher where I shop over here, it's $1.99 a pound for a whole chicken, or it's $5.99 a pound for chicken breast. So explain to me that process, right? Because they're cutting it, they're preparing it, they're giving you access to portions. But if you have the ability or the know-how to cook a whole chicken, you can spend $5 on a whole chicken and eat for 2-3 days, a couple of meals, versus just spending $6 on one chicken breast.
I completely agree on that part. Yeah, actually, to be honest though, for me, why does Whole Food or any kind of stores that sells organic chicken is $12 a whole organic chicken? I don't get that.
It's organic. It's
but
the,
still,
the
and I'm like, are
labeling.
you serious? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Well, you buy a regular chicken, it's only $5, $6. Why is it almost twice the price?
And then the whole air cooled thing. I mean, that's
the air chill. You mean the air chill
chilled.
thing?
Yeah.
Wait, what is that? Is that a new
Listen, go ahead, elaborate
branding?
that. You can tell them that.
It just the chicken is kept at a constant cool temperature from the time it's received until the time it's serviced, and it's supposed to maintain some freshness. And maybe there's some more there that I'm not hitting on or that I don't know about.
It kind of so what happens is that back in the days, chicken tend to dry up, and then the freshness tend to go away. So what they do is they fill with water, make the chicken breast look bigger, and that was a huge issue in terms of quality. And then obviously you added other additional preservatives to that to make the chicken breast look the same color, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of company has gotten lawsuits for that, you know, because it impacts in health. So now the air chill method is that it's supposed to maintain the freshness, and you don't lose the water of the actual true, you know, the true chicken, you know, juice.
How much more?
Right?
How much more is it? Double?
It's a lot more.
Triple?
Probably double.
Double,
you know,
yeah.
1.5 to double.
Again, going back to this.
It's all marketing.
It is marketing, but
yes and no. There's okay. The way that I test the quality of chicken is the taste of chicken the day after. Yeah. That's the ultimate way to test it. So whatever you're going to cook chicken one way, cook your chicken another way, two separate manufacturers, taste them both the same the next day. One of them is going to have a funnier taste than the other one.
And it's a big difference too.
Wait. What about when you get like McDonald's stuff where it's the same on both days? Like it's just exactly the same, but you've left it overnight and it still looks the same. Like there you go.
Dude,
perfect. Great so chicken. Crazy. This is good chicken. Preservatives.
The McDonald's chicken is so crazy though.
Yeah. McDonald's everything just like lasts forever.
Yeah. Actually, right. By the way, guys, talking about food waste, I send you guys a link. Let me tell you, the amount of food waste. Obviously, we can go on about this, but it's ridiculous. It's like, it was roughly like almost 80 billion pounds of food waste.
161 billion a year on
dollar-wise, yeah.
Yeah, $1,600 a year for a family of 4. That's crazy.
You can feed literally everyone in America and probably in Africa to the same time.
Yep. 40% of the food supply is wasted each year.
It's because we want that freshness, and it's just because, you know, listen, I know Publix does a good job of actually, you know, giving away the food before it becomes spoiled, and they give it away. Trader Joe's does a really good job at that. But at the end of the day, restaurants industry, you know, franchise restaurant. I remember when I was like 17, 18 years old, I was working, 17 years old, I was working KFC Taco Bell, and they overcook so much fried chicken. It's not even funny. So you have to have boxes to go, right? I was like, what are you guys going to do with this chicken? They said, we might have to throw them away. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why don't you just give them to me? I'll give them to my neighbors or whatever, give them away to any homeless shelter and stuff like that. And they're like, well, one, the liability situation, you know, they don't know that. And I'm like, listen, how about this? Let me bag them up. You can look the other way around. I just take them with me. Something magically disappear. So every night, every time I closed up the restaurant, I took away at least 10 to 12 boxes of fried chicken. At first, I started giving out to my neighbors, and they got sick of it. And then I started just talking to the shelter. I really did.
We did that. I did that. I worked at a pizzeria, and all the garlic knots and things that, you know, returned orders, things like that. People, we would always give it away. Mm-hmm. Somebody would come at the end of the night from a homeless shelter. They would pick it up and we would donate it.
As long as we end up doing it, we end up signing a waiver that said, hey, this is just extra food, things like that. You know, because at the end of the day, I think for restaurants, they were more worried about the safety thing. Like, for example, biscuits been sitting out of them more than 4 hours. Obviously, it becomes hard, right? But guess what? The people who are hungry, they're not going to complain hard biscuit. Let me tell you. You know.
Well, see, and that's the thing. That's the trouble with a chain restaurant versus an independent restaurant. Because if you've got hard biscuits, you know, you could repurpose that. I mean, you could make stuffing. Breadcrumbs, stuffing, you know, I mean, there's the ability to think on your feet and to repurpose that. And a lot of restaurants are doing that now. You know, there's a whole movement on front of house to back of house integration where they're taking ingredients that the chef has left over from the back of the house and they're molding it with the bar. So the bartender and the chef talk together, and he says, well, I got all the tips of all these peppers. What do you want to do? And then he soaks them in vodka in the front of the house, and now he's got a jalapeno vodka. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening to save food waste in the bev alcohol industry. So it's a big movement.
I've seen that actually with bacon. So I know that there's a breakfast brunch place they make a lot of bacon, right? Obviously, once breakfast ends, they don't sell that much bacon. So what they do is they take the bacon to make what's called Bloody Marys. Yep. And so they make a bacon Bloody Mary. Let me tell you, amazing. It's amazing. And not only that, they have this bacon. So what they do is they repurpose those bacon and they put like a honey syrup glossing in it, and they have those as a bar snack into a jar. So instead of being jerkies, they're little strip of bacons. And like you said, they repurpose them.
Yep. There's so much ability to think on your feet, in some of these restaurants, and it's really great, and the movement is fantastic. And then if you can't use it, donate it. And if you can't donate it, then compost it,
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
All right, that's good. Let's wrap this up. Let's
Jason, you want to take away? Any plugins you want to pass out, and then kind of message you want to share?
No, I mean, we could, there's, depending on where you live, if you're in North Texas and you're listening, you can check out my Facebook page. It's Gluten Free Goodness. It's at GF Chef Jason. And if you're in North Texas, I can absolutely work as your personal chef. We can do any type of food, and I deliver pretty much up to about 15, 20 miles around the area where I live. So it's a 75033 zip code. Instagram is at Som Travel Eats. You can check it out on there.
Yeah, we're gonna show that on the screen as well. So your website, we're gonna show that in the screen.
Yeah, and it'll all be in the description. All the links that we need.
Awesome.
Yeah,
there's some videos on there. I need to get better at doing some more cooking videos, some more instructional videos. So send me a message if there's something that you want to see, or if there's something you want to learn about. I'm more than happy to help. It's all about making people feel more comfortable with food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, this has been fun. This definitely has been informative, and it's amazing talking to you. No, obviously, let's not wait 4 years to keep talking.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it, guys.
And we definitely appreciate having you on. For those who are listening, check out his Facebook. It's GF Chef Jason. You can search that in the bar. And then for those who are watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more episodes. And for those who are listening, whether on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's gfothoughts. And you can also find us in social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Leave us some reviews. Tell us, leave us some comments.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from everybody, and what we'd like to hear, what kind of topics you want us to discuss, or even say, hey, guys, you guys could do a better job certain things. Listen, we're always looking for room for improvement. We're not experts here, right? So at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that everyone stays safe. And thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, peace.
Thanks, Jason.
Take care.